and welcome back to the only show that breaks down, cracks up, skews, and reviews each week's DC Comics. I'm the Dream Master, Eric Shea.
And I'm Jim Werner.
And this is the Weird Science DC Comics Podcast, episode number 493. Summerween Night Terror Spooktacular.
Oh my God, Eric, it's week 2 of Summerween, and if you are paying attention and playing at home, during the second week of Summerween, you all know that the little kids, they put their shoes outside their door, and hopefully the Summerween Spooktacular
That's not how you play.
ends up putting the sand and half-eaten tacos in these shoes. That's what the
thing is, I imagine that's what you actually believe Halloween's like, because your parents didn't want your stinky-ass shoes in the house.
I'm just making it like it's every week you have something else. I want the Summerween Advent Calendar. That's what I want.
Advent Calendar, I got you.
And it's at the best is at the end, you open up that last door and somebody punches you right in the face and wakes you up.
Just like real life.
And then we can actually go to September and get some good books. You know what I'm saying, Eric? Oh, boy. Hey, all you weirdos. Hey, you Frankie, Annette, and Moondog. It's Summerween time,
Moondog.
And we got all of your Summerween spectacular things this week. All Summerween, all the time. I don't know about you, but I was afraid that Jess was going to get seasonal work out at the Spirit of Summerween store, Eric. I don't know what they sell there, but I know that they sell nightmares. That's it. Nightmares and dreams,
Not dreams?
Eric.
There we go.
Little dreams. I mean, the dream is that the nightmares end, but who knows? Who knows? But hey, everybody. We have a hell of a show. We have 6 books, all night terrors. And with that, before we get into that, let's do the accounting here, Eric. We also, this week, we had the Thank God It's Friday show.
Sure did.
We haven't done that in a while, and that is on the regular feed, also on YouTube, but you can go and listen to that now. That is Batman Incorporated, number 10, and Spirit World, number 3. And that's kind of a cool deal. Eric says that's the leftovers or the...
Why? It's leftovers.
Because this week on our Patreon-only spotlight, that if you want to get involved with that, you go over to Patreon, you sign up there and get to listen to 2 books reviewed by me and old Spooky over here on Thursday night, and they are books picked by the badasses of the Get Fresh crew. And this week, they ended up picking World's Finest Teen Titans, number 1, and Unstoppable Doom Patrol, number 4.
And that, my friend, is why they are the leftovers, because the badasses of the Get Fresh crew, boo-boo, did not want it on their spotlight. We didn't want it on the main show, so that's where they landed. Thank God it's Friday.
I'll tell you, and people were starting to wonder in the Slack, is this going to be able to go? You even asked me on RTGIF, said, do you think that the boat can keep on rowing?
I hope so.
Because, well, next week, if the badasses go with it, 4 books that aren't part of the Night Terror. So it does work out, Eric. Now, that's another thing, though, we'll have to discuss by the end, Eric. Keep that in mind. No, there's another book that's coming out that I don't know that we're loving. I think that you'll demand that we keep doing, but we'll get back to that.
What is it? I want to know right now.
It's Superboy World, Man of Tomorrow.
What is wrong with you? The Cosmeteers are important.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody really cares about it, but maybe we'll do that as well. But maybe we'll have a TGIF with 3 books.
Ken. Maybe.
Or we'll have a Patreon spotlight with 3 books. We'll have to see how it plays out. I don't know.
It's all possible.
But we already mentioned them. The spookiest badasses of the Get Fresh crew. Here is their spotlight, Eric. I'm not going to get spooky. No beatboxing, nothing.
That's spooky?
I'm getting right to it. It's spooky to some people. Stephen Batdad Mitchell, Trevitt, Dad Nation, y'all. Eric K., Jeffrey Greek, Zach Walker, The Annihilator, Ted Probst, I Love Punchline, Stork, Michael S., Cam, Matt Razor, D-Man 3000, Niels T-Wart, David Fink, Stephen Baum, Jason Colby, Sue42, To You, and me, Michael G., Ken Halleck, Comic Boom Rocky, Night Terrors with an F. Yeah, a big F, maybe a U as well. Mark Jager, Bill Beer from the Bat Pod, Ruben does the X-Men stuff, and he starts talking to me about the X-Men stuff, and I tune him out. I'll tell you. Carlos, he ends up, hey, this happened. I'm like, I don't even know. I thought he called me Nimrod the other day.
You do this to me all the time.
Marv, Matthew Rapier, Luke Hollywood, Simon, Luis, Manship, Andrew Belfast, Swanee, Anthony G, Josh Million, Batman Beyond, Mark, Brandy Murray, Brandon up there in Buffalo, and doxing his ass, Double A Ron in Minnesota. Boom, boom, and a boom, and all-time greats. Unfortunately, no longer with us, Rob Lewis, Reginald Drinkwater, and me. You don't know this. I'm a ghost. I'm going to ghost you after this. One of these weeks, I'm going to ghost your ass is what I'm going to do. Oh, you're gaslighting you've been doing. I'm telling you.
Gaslighting?
The minute they came up with that term gaslighting, Tanya uses it for everything. I'm telling you, I say to her, like, oh, my God, I got to go get gas for the car. Don't you gaslight me. I'm like, that doesn't
I don't think you use it properly.
I'm like, you don't use it. I'm like, oh, she's like, what are you watching? Oh, I'm watching a YouTube video. Don't you gaslight me.
She'll get that.
I don't know if you know what's happening. So what I'll tell you, a little secret. Anytime we do get in an actual fight, that's all I yell
every day.
I start yelling her. You're gaslighting me, and I walk away, and it drives her insane. It drives her insane. It makes me giggle, Eric. But here we are. Gaslight Shay and Ghostin' Jimmy. I actually thought today might have been the one day that I end up getting a hold of you and say, let's skip this week. Let's actually take a week. I was getting tired. I was in the middle of one of the books. Well, I have a barometer, really, when I read books. I am always tired, but I usually don't fall asleep on my tablet. And that's what happened during one of the books. And I thought, boy, I don't know. I don't think I'm in a good mood here. I don't think I feel well. Like, out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
But then we started talking before we were recording. I'm fired up, Eric. I'm not going to say positive, but I'm positively looking forward to see what you think about these books. We're going to go off to these. We're going to have 2 sections of 3 books, Night Terrors all the way. We have a male section as well, and away we go. Eric, week 2 here, and I said at one point that while I was reading these Night Terrors, I was going to kind of try not to think, well, I'd rather be reading the regular books, but it does keep creeping up. But also, just this past week, somebody did say to me, like, oh, the main book, don't pay attention. That's nothing. The main book.
Really?
These tie-ins are where it's at. Actually used the meat and cheese, which threw me off, and said that's where the meat and cheese is. And I said to them, and I'll tell everybody again, we keep saying this and probably will say it each week, I have to keep putting it out of my mind. But when I talked to a bunch of the writers of these tie-ins and asked them, hey, what were you told? What kind of guidance? We kind of assumed what we would get as an answer, and it was they didn't get any guidance at all that they were told. And so when we're into the second week, and I ended up, people seem mad at me that I didn't like the Night Terrors number 1 that we're going to start with, but I ended up during this week thinking, boy, I think there's one thing that people aren't really going with here, which really shows me, it's early still, but still it shows me that this is a complete and utter failure, Eric. And I know that people will already be rolling their eyes that I say that, but this is a story that the setup is a nightmare stone is hidden in a hero or villain's nightmares, right?
Or maybe the real world.
Insomnia going, right? Again, but have you heard anybody? And we're in the Slack and on Twitter. I don't know where the hell you are. Down at the local arcade and maybe at the wharf. Has one person, have you seen anybody? Have you seen anybody say, oh my God, here are my 5 picks of where this nightmare stone may be. Oh my God, I think I've done some homework and I think it's
that's the weirdest part because even though like we haven't talked about this before we got on for the podcast tonight and I'm waiting for you, I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, all right, we're going through all of this stuff. We have a bunch more tie-ins to deal with even for the rest of this month before we even get to the like number 2s and stuff. And I'm like, whose mind will ultimately be in? And I'm thinking like, does it even matter? And ultimately, do we have any kind of clues of why it would be in a specific place where John D would hide a stone that we've never heard of and have no idea what it does in any particular hero and or villain's mind and or the waking world? Because I don't know enough about the Nightmare Stone to say who's in the goddamn mind of this.
Exactly. And you could say, and you already did say it, we're going to get more times. We're not done the first month yet. And so without us being done with the first month, but nobody's sitting there like at points, me and you go nuts with this stuff where we'll be like, oh my God. And we always want to, look smart and do this detective work. It didn't even cross my mind.
We never bring it up again.
Oh no, we'll never. That shit's buried. Talk about gaslighting, Eric. That's out the door. But when we end up doing all this, I never once actually thought to myself, because after reading even the first week of Times, I realized they don't matter. They
I did
don't
about an
matter.
hour ago for the first time.
Yeah, and but you probably came to a brick wall thinking, I don't even know what the hell the rules are, or what's going on, or what this is.
Exactly.
It's so odd. This idea that the big setup for the big summertime spooky event is the Nightmare Stone is in somebody's nightmares. Oh my God. And I don't see anybody making any guesses because there's really no info to make guesses with. Plus, I'm going to start changing rules this week, Eric. And that's what I get driven nuts with Joshua Williamson every time. We did it in the Slash run. We did it in Dark Crisis. That shit started changing throughout. You never knew who the real big bad was and what was going on till the end. And that's what this feels like as well.
I have two guesses right now for whose mind the Nightmare Stone is in. Guess number one, which both of these I just came up with right now as you were talking, but Wesley Dodds, and it was fine that he was dead. At the end of this issue, when Dead Man brings him back from dead, now Insomnia will be able to get it, and so Dead Man ruined everything. And
but do zombies dream?
Of electric...
Do they dream of rotting sheep? Is that
yes, they dream of rotting sheep.
I don't know that he would dream. I'm just going with Batman, because it's always Batman.
But Jim, as Dead Man told us in the beginning of this whole thing, there's a very thin line between the dreams and death.
No. There is, Eric. And also, in this one, Insomnia says it might be in the waking world. It's just, who cares now? So ridiculous.
Now, guess number two, just for fun here. It's in Superman's mind because, as we know, before Doomsday Clock, he never has nightmares. He doesn't have nightmares. So right there, Mike, it's because the Nightmare Stone's in it. It holds that shit at bay.
Well, I said from the very beginning, the idea of the Nightmare Stone that was in somebody's nightmares all this time, I just wanted it to be something where, oh my God, these three characters, like you always talk about back in the day, you'd have a year-long setup for an event, and you didn't even realize it. So we talked about this a little already, but I would have loved to have had it where, oh my God, Eric, you know that Nightwing's been acting very aggressive lately, like it might be him. Like, I want to see if
he's got one of them rage ones inside of him.
Is starting to affect them. Is it something that's got, but it's nothing.
So kind of like we have at the end of the button with like Barry Allen and Batman talking about one of these heroes isn't like, acting like themselves lately to lead into the Batman who laughs infecting people, which didn't make any sense for how long it was in between.
And it's like the long con. Speaking of that, I mean, anybody in a Tom King book is right up there. They're on the top of the list. Like they're acting weird.
Everybody's sus.
Like, there you go. Supergirl act very aggressive. And the Supergirl, a woman of tomorrow. So maybe she had the... I don't think it matters like that. I don't think any of this matters. So when we go through this, we are just trying to at least enjoy each issue, making it hard on us, or at least on me, Eric. We're going to start with Night Terrors #1, written by Joshua Williamson with art by Giuseppe Camuncoli, Stefano Nessi, Frank Martin, Casper Wingard, and Troy Patiri. Hey, you know that Dead Man?
I do.
We'll find out who he is again, because we're going to get another bit
in the weirdest way possible,
origin.
Because we're going to have a little more background on the high-flying Dead Man Boston Brand, who he was and what he liked to do before he died and became the Dead Man we all know and love today. But when he starts telling us the story, for some reason our narration takes place in a inside the mind situation where it's this Dead Man in a suit to talking to us in an empty audience in a theater. I'm like, why are we even doing this when it doesn't work with anything else we're doing?
And it doesn't work for me because it's not like one of those things where I sit there and I'm like, oh my God, this works within this whole Night Terror story, and I get it. No. It just seems like it's filler. It just seems like it's kind of trying to be a bit fancy. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in the story, and we already had a recap that didn't seem to be enough anyway. But this isn't going to do anything more. The idea, hey, I was a high flyer. People who came, they wanted to see me die, and then I realized, and I got shot.
Became a superhero, and it's exactly the same.
Yeah, and look at me now. I get to be a wacky superhero, and away we go. And then we go into the deal, and then we go to where we left off in the First Blood issue, where you do have Insomnia, I guess, in John Dee's body, and has Batman with Dead Man inside pinned to the wall. All the doctors in Arkham have become these zombified, nightmarish guys, which never really was explained either, but we just kind of roll with some of these things.
That's the weirdest part about this, because in this issue, we're going to discover that we did have that weird little setup that we're talking about to, a little precursor to get things rolling before the big event happens. And we did have that to a degree in the Lazarus Planet Huntress issue. And I forget which book that came out with Lazarus Planet, but at the end of that, you saw the Lazarus rain leaking down into Arkham Tower into some cell and said to be continued later on. And it's in Night Terrors. So that's John Dee. I mean, not John Dee, Insomnia. Insomnia is at Arkham Tower. He's in a coma. He got all Lazarus rained on, and now he's the god of nightmares for some reason.
But
and
he's
right
not.
now we know he's not. But that's what he proclaims. He's the god of nightmares.
He's talking shit.
So right now we have insomnia. The real guy stuck in a coma, and he's projecting his mind out there after he dream walked through people's minds, giving them nightmares, looking for the nightmare stone. End up taking over John Dee's body and is reborn in the real world. So right now we know that insomnia can jump into people's dreams. He can put the whole world asleep, and he can make them into a nightmare state where he can tiptoe through the tulips to see where this goddamn nightmare stone is. He can walk around in the normal day. He can turn humans into nightmare creatures and alter reality. But for some reason, somehow, this guy thinks he needs more power. What can the nightmare stone possibly do that he can't already do?
The only thing that I get is that he needs the nightmare stone to stay in the waking world. He says, I'm getting pulled back to the nightmares. That's why he needs Nightmare Stone. But we don't even know what the fuck the Nightmare Stone is.
Like, does he go back and I'm getting pulled back to the nightmares. I need 72 hours to recharge, and then I'm back to it, baby.
What Mixoplick rules? I don't know. Somebody grab him and tell him to say insomnia backwards. Get Zatanna on this shit. You say insomnia backwards. Right? You end up in this, even before we get to the play, because once we find out, one of the mysteries that we actually were jumping back and forth with, me and you, oh my God, is Insomnia Cleveland Brand, Boston Brand's brother? Is he part of this? Is he part of that? Legitimately, in this issue, Josh Williamson, through Deadman, says, oh no, he's just some dude. That's all it is. How can you lessen an event that much in the first official numbered issue of the event? It makes everything less. And when you end up finding out that, it was some dude who was just there catatonic in Arkham Tower, and he got dripped on by the Lazarus Rain, which nobody likes and wants to forget anyway. And that's how we get this event. This whole event is a stupid asshole who got wet from the Lazarus Rain. Nonsense. But even then, after you get this recap from Deadman, you go straight to Insomnia, recapping everything. Hey there, Deadman, you're in the Batman body. Hey, by the way, I'm after the Nightmare Stone, but then messes it up and says, I think it's either in the waking world or the night. Again, how much can you lessen
for everybody?
How much can you lessen the idea of tie-ins when you say it could also be in the waking world? Is that just to get that one Zatanna book and a couple others because they're the way? You set this up to be nightmares. You set all these tie-ins. And then in that, we haven't seen anything with Insomnia trying to manipulate things in the nightmares and trying to find a Nightmare Stone in it.
He's
so
it's all just nonsense. Spooky.
It's all nonsense. Sometimes he's just sitting there like Beetlejuice.
Sometimes people are sharing dreams for reasons unknown to me.
There's no rules, and the minuscule rules we had are being topsy-turvy. I'm telling you, when I ended up seeing him in some of these times, it reminds me of that running joke in Community when they said Beetlejuice and then Beetlejuice walked by on the outside. That's all he is. He's just sitting watching TV there. He's there.
He's Pandora.
Nonsense. Now, I've talked to some people about this, or people have even asked me questions or maybe fought a little, but still, this is an event. This is a big thing, or should be. Everybody has a different idea of what the hell is going on, but most people do end up saying, because again, Insomnia, the big bad, right? Yeah. He was just some dude, quote unquote, who ends up getting Lazarus Rain on. That's bad enough. Also, he doesn't even have his own body. He's there, that's even worse. He's in a weird-looking body of John Dee that he possessed, so he has nothing. There's nothing.
And the weird part about it is that there's nothing good about him, like you said, nothing original, that's just his because he's in Dr. Destiny's body. But even when he's in Dr. Destiny's body, he looks like an amalgam of the Creeper and Manchester Black.
Yeah, definitely the Creeper and Manchester Black. It's just odd. So he's there, but again, when you throw Lazarus Rain into the whole deal, to me and you, we've talked about Lazarus Rain and all the other things. Lazarus Rain's just a MacGuffin to do whatever you want with anybody. You could just say, so when we go forward, don't be surprised if Insomnia just starts having powers that we never were set up, nothing, because nothing really has been. But then it'll always be, Lazarus Rain. And that is not a way to set up an event. You are actually setting up an event in something that most people didn't like, and it was never fully spelled out how that Lazarus Rain even did anything to anybody. And that sucks. But in that, you end up where the Deadman decides he's got to find out what's what. And so he jumps into the body, more the mind
of Insomnia.
Insomnia. Now, me and you discuss this. First off, It's the dead body of John Dee, but it is possessed. So I'll give you that it's animated.
It's been animated, exactly. Yeah. It's been like, it's Insomnia's living body now. Let's call it that.
Maybe, but what happens? Because you saw Insomnia's like, I'm getting pulled back into the nightmare realm. Does that body just fall over and rot? So with that, I can skew it because remember, dead man doesn't jump into dead body. He jumps into living bodies, and when he doesn't read their minds. Their minds go dormant. He takes the place of their consciousness. They usually won't even know that he was there afterward. But here, Joshua Williamson, just because he needs some way to give this exposition, suddenly Dead Man reads minds. It's not his power. That's nothing that Dead Man does. Most people, I actually was shocked how little people know about Dead Man. I just thought that it was kind of common knowledge with most of the characters, at least their basic, power sets and things like that. But most people are like, oh yeah, Dead Man, he should be able to read. No, but he does. And he reads the mind, and that's where we find out. And in a weird way, you get Wesley Dodds involved. I mean, this whole dream sequence of the mind reading, you get pretty much everything that you need to get to go forward, because that's the only way Joshua Williamson can get things going. He forces things in. But we do see that Nightmare Stone. It's a little weird the way it's explained. Me and you were talking about the verbiage and how it kind of comes down is weird.
Well, that's the thing is, when you have a thing, the Nightmare Stone, created long ago by a sacrifice, a tormented hero, a long-lost case. So I'm guessing they're tying in with Morpheus, the Dream, with, Sandman, Wesley Dodds, trying to give an idea of, the Dream Stone to the Nightmare Stone, how Wesley Dodds maybe was, a part of creating the Nightmare Stone. But when they get to the point of Dr. Destiny used to possess the Dream Stone, John G. stole it and manipulated it into something broken and twisted it. And I'm saying, well, Dr. Destiny and John D. are the same person. So when you say Dr. Destiny used to possess the Dreamstone, are you trying to say Morpheus, or are you trying to actually say maybe that Wesley Dodds Sandman once possessed it, but you just said Dr. Destiny by mistake here? Because it's just such a weird way to spell this out, because I don't know if, it's poorly written, or it's just, hey, Dr. Destiny used to possess the Dreamstone. And they're like, oh, I don't want to say Dr. Destiny again. So John D. stole it and manipulated it into something twisted and evil.
But the weird is, it's like he used to possess it, then he stole it. That doesn't make sense. So I think it is Morpheus. Now, this is the weird play. You said to me, well, they don't want to deep dive. There's not enough room to get in the Neil Gaiman.
You don't want to Neil Gaiman this shit up, yeah.
But the way that you fly by it, even with Sandman, the way you go, I said, people don't know Dead Man. That surprised me. But now you're throwing in things that not a lot of people know, but you're almost making your whole basis of this and the foundation of your story based on that. I don't know. I think that people just read this page and go forward. Like me, I'm like, whatever.
And even when you were reading it, you have the idea that the Dreamstone was turned into the Nightmare Stone. I still think it's something different that has to deal with Wesley Dodds, and then we find out more about the Dreamstone and Dr. Destiny.
Something. I think it almost feels like that's what they're saying, but it can't be, because then you mess with the Dreamstone. That doesn't really make sense. And because he hid it long ago, it's just weird.
He feared it.
Yeah, the whole thing, though, with that is just not spelled out right. And then you get this whole deal, and pretty much all this page is for is to see the Nightmare Stone in the middle, and there's Wesley Dodds Salmon.
All right,
go forward.
Set it up.
That's really all we're getting, but why make it that convoluted on that page? To just not even confuse people. People just like, whatever. And so then he goes deeper, goes into this whole play here. And then he's like, oh, I'm at Arkham Tower, but this is a while ago, like 3 days ago, a hot weekend
like 2 weeks ago when the Lazarus Rain happened.
Oh, my God, Lazarus Rain. What's happening here? And that's where he does see that. Oh, man,
this comatose guy got wet.
Oh, my God, that's all it is. And so this comatose guy.
He's having a wet dream, am I right?
Man, oh, my goodness, that's pretty good, Eric, or a wet nightmare, I call it.
The thing is, I should have gotten the Freddy Krueger line, talk about a wet dream.
That would have been
should have got it.
Oh, my God, you didn't do it. I'm looking at that.
That always works.
So the big villain, the one intriguing thing in that first issue of First Blood that we were talking about was, who could this be? It seems like a character we forgot about. It might be a brother, because he's like, hey, brother, you said it was Hulk Hogan.
It's just Hulk Hogan talking.
And then we find out that, again, quote unquote, it's just some dude. That really lessens everything to me.
And just then, some dude who's been in a coma and, Arkham Tower, you're not supposed to wake him up and stuff like that. And I just assume, since he got Lazarus Rain, you and I are talking about, he's pissed at the Justice League because in his mind he sees them as monsters. And I think to myself, because Joshua Williamson is writing this, somehow his family got hurt during Dark Crisis and he blames the heroes.
And that's the thing. Either his family got hurt in Dark Crisis or he did. because he's in a coma. His family may still be out there, but he's not able to see them. And that's
6
the memories
feet under
because,
out there.
Well, maybe, but I'm telling you, this could have been something where the Dark Army, he got possessed by that and it scrambled his brain, and then he never came back from it. So he's there in this comatose state. This wakes him up. He's able to travel through dreams and nightmares. He sees but it's definitely going to be Dark Crisis. Something with that messed up, either him, family, both. But even that, like, is Joshua Williamson think he's being coy here with, like, I see some happy memories. You see the guy with a family. Oh, get out of my brain. Get out of there. And he gets expelled, goes back into Batman, and then says, I love where he just says out loud, got some real great information from you, Insomnia, so I'm going to leave here and I'm going to go research it. And then just jumps out the window because he's got Batman. And that actually works out. Luckily, there's all those weird
he's an acrobat, and usually, like, this could really kill somebody because Batman is ultra athletic. He's like, this is the best body I've ever been in.
Yep, and that's actually the best deal that you did, because that's what happens if, while he was an acrobat, if he jumps into big fat Eric Shea, he ain't doing no acrobat. Right? He's not doing nothing. He's tumbling down the stairs. That's what's happening
gracefully.
There. Maybe. If it was me, it would not be gracefully.
Well, let's get to brass tacks and talk about something important in Night Terrors. How do you feel about this new Batmobile that we see here? Because whenever we see a new Batmobile, I get excited, but I also have, the double-edged sword to the point where, like, I get excited to see a new one, but is this one really working for old Jim Warner?
No. And I'm telling you, like, the weird play of this is I don't really know what has changed or not changed in the waking world either. Even when we get to the Zatanna book, that looks like a nightmare version. Everywhere. That looks like a nightmare version of the thing that we'll never see again. It looks stupid. I don't like it, Eric. And he's there and he's driving around. Hey, I'm going to get out of here. I like where that's where
the buildings around him look like it has the T virus or G virus from Resident Evil growing out of it.
Yeah, what the fuck's going on? I'd rather be in my nightmares, right? Nightmares really is just my waking day. Anyway.
Dude, I think this is what your basement looks like.
I really was hoping we were going to see somebody like a Jason Todd, where when he goes into it, it's like the nightmares are actually better than the regular world. He's like, I was kind of
hoping that we got to see something of, might be on the character's mind as of late, maybe in their personal lives. It's like bothering them right now that they might be thinking about, as a personal problem outside of just a flashback history lesson of who these characters are and things they've experienced before. Because when you get to Jason Todd's nightmare, I guess it's going to happen. The Joker's going to kill him and his mother.
It doesn't matter.
When we get to the tie-ins, I'll try to. I talked to you about it before we recorded, where I was trying to make it work somehow, but it's not going to work. The things are terrible. But you end up where, again, though, this is supposed to be the book that's driving everything forward. And really, up until this point here, all we've done is find out that this guy is some dude that got rained on with the Lazarus rain, and he has a family that you might want to get back to. And it lessens everything in my mind. But you end up going, and really, like, what mystery do we have left except where the Nightmare Stone is? But you're not even setting up clues for that. But
how do you know? We had a not flashback, but a look inside Insomnia's mind when we saw Wesley Dodds and the creation of the Nightmare Stone. And by the end of this issue, Deadman, knowing what he's seen, he's like, I got to go resurrect Wesley Dodds with some Lazarus resin. And I'm like, well, then we're setting stuff up here. There's Wesley Dodds there. And then by the end, there's Wesley Dodds set up.
What you have set up is what really didn't matter. Because, again, Insomnia doesn't know shit.
Man.
He doesn't know shit. This is all he knows, and he can't find the
same playing field.
Right? Why didn't he go and do this with, Sandman? This is the stuff he already knew.
The boy just came into the real world.
The guy only knows, well, I guess he's also kind of limited there, but the nonsense. He ends up where you do have Deadman realize, oh my God, I thought that it was just here, the Arkhams. Actually, at one point, you did too. I mean, a lot of people did. They just thought it was very...
I thought there was a proximity around Gotham or something like that, or like the Hall of Justice. Because at the one point, I forgot that we went to Arkham Tower.
And this drives me nuts, and we talk about this a lot when we're doing comics. There are times when comic books don't make sense. I don't know if you know this, Sarah. You've been reading comics most of your life.
The hell you say?
But like the idea of, wait a minute, how can Superman be on the Justice League on Corrigar while he's also in a prison there? And more the things you have to let go, right?
Exactly.
And there are things that will never be able to be explained, and you just say it's comic books. But then you go and try to explain it, and then it makes it worse. When Deadman's like, oh shit, it's the whole world. Everybody in the whole world fell asleep. Luckily, there's a couple robots out there, and they saved everyone. They're not going to save everyone.
We have a few heroes doing stuff to like help things out. We have Red Tornado riding a plane, and we have Zatanna reading some books, doing some magic. And I'm like, that's all we get to see.
She looks like she's studying.
You spent a page or two on Dead Man giving us narration in a suit in an empty theater for whatever reason. Give me a freaking full page. Just break down the waking heroes. Give me the middlemen. Give me anybody that makes sense to get out of the way of the idea of not sleeping.
Assume that you just push it aside that they were saved. I'm telling you, when you bring this up, I want to see, oh my God, I didn't realize that the Atom saved Eric because he's working the bandsaw at work. You're there cutting shit. You fall asleep. You're about to die. The Atom and grabs
every
you.
day.
Right? So nobody died.
But why didn't the Atom fall asleep, Jim?
Well, I was just making up shit.
You got to come up with some good shit. Why isn't this person asleep?
Out of nowhere.
Does Clayface sleep? Is he helping out somewhere?
I was just going to go with one of those Superboy robots that he used to make back in the day. You got them flying around.
Superman's got them.
Yeah, they're gonna save you. They're crypto.
And as we find out in this or the Zatanna issue, we have the old JLA robot Elrod. He's up doing stuff.
Yeah. Everybody's saved though. Everybody. The 8,000 planes that are up there in the sky at all times, Eric. 8,000.
Thank God Red Tornado is out there doing his job.
This guy is doing shit. I didn't realize he was that much of a hero. You're a big Red Tornado fan. I like him enough, but now he's a hero. Whoever it was, that gang of robotic and whatever heroes, they should get awards at the end of this. They saved the world.
You, I would even play, if I could even make a play with the idea, let's say Firestorm, just because I always want to bring a Firestorm any chance I get. Let's just say that the Firestorm Matrix was able to save Professor Stein and Ronnie Raven because the Firestorm Matrix protected them from that. Because Firestorm doesn't sleep. They have to separate in order to sleep. So let's just say he can still remain awake as long as he's in Firestorm. Yeah, exactly. You guys can't fall asleep when you're together.
At one point, I started thinking crazy stuff, which doesn't make sense. Like, well, would aliens do, because they're kind of different, they treat it different. I was just making up shit in my head. But really, all we see is Red Tornado and
Zatanna. That's it.
It's
later on, we'll see Robot Man and the Zatanna tie-in, so we understand that Cliff Steele's out there not sleeping because just human brain, robot body.
And, there was weird things going on. I was thinking about the Green Lantern family, or the Green Arrow family, because of all that shit going on and whatnot. But you end up having all this, and what you end up having is Deadman then. He seems to know the lay of the land. I don't know if you're trying to insinuate that he's able to read a little of Batman's mind or whatever, because I don't know how he'd know there's Lazarus rain or resin that Batman had collected, but he certainly goes back and gets it, and that's the full play.
And uses all of it on Wesley Dodds.
Shut up, Wesley.
Tell me when we'll finally get rid of the shit, because we're told that there's none. It's like the nth metal,
over and over
nonsense.
again.
Yeah, over and over. Like, oh man, there's none left except this one. Oh,
that's
none
the
of
thing.
that.
We had the whole thing with the idea of the Lazarus resin pills and from Task Force Z, and then the Lazarus rain happened, and like all of a sudden, oh my God, all the Lazarus pits are all dried up. There's nothing left. No more Lazarus juice. And then in the background, Steph, dies. Oh, we had some Lazarus juice. We gave it to her, and she's alive again. And it just keeps happening. So we're at the point where we have the Lazarus rain, the Lazarus resin, and the Lazarus juice. And I don't know if they're all the same or not.
That's the problem. It's because it says Lazarus resin on the things. Yes. And I love the idea that Deadman's like, there's none of this shit left. He seems to like sprinkle a little and throw the rest over his shoulder just to lay there. He is now going to cause a zombie apocalypse.
Oh, yeah. This is how Return of the Living Dead started.
I'm going full resin, and I like the tie-in. I wish that he didn't say there was the Lazarus rain and Batman. What are you going to do? Get the dead body to have powers? It wasn't really that spelled out that Lazarus rain rose the dead. It actually gave you meta powers. So when it's resin, though, I like that because it ties into Task Force Z.
And it does, because even when Wesley Dodds is reanimated hero and he gets the gas mask, he looks like a zombie behind that gas mask with that crazy one eye that we get to see. So obviously it feels more like Lazarus or like resin from Task Force Z than anything else.
And I'm just going with that. And I thought that was kind of cool. But
there's a little tie-in. We don't know the ramifications of it yet, but over in the JSA comic book, I believe it was, that Jeff Johns is doing, the Lazarus Rain also brought back Dr. Midnight and Wildcat, the second generation of that with Bethany Chapel and Yolanda Montez. They brought them back to life. There's something else going on with that, but JSA is so, it's not coming out, so I have no idea when we're ever going to get the answers about how that worked with Lazarus Rain.
But yeah, I go with resin because it's even spelled out in solicits. Even look at his head. He's a zombie.
Oh, yeah.
He's come back as a zombie.
He needs some more to get all his good stuff back.
And that's the kind of cool play here. If you go with this, if there isn't any more resin at the end, he's just going to end up dying. He's just he needs more. I kind of like that. It almost goes in a play with even Insomnia needing the Nightmare Stone to stay alive and in the waking world and actually be able to do things, as opposed to, this. And I'm telling you,
Wesley Dodds is the only man who knows about it besides for John D.
Shut up, Wesley.
And somehow, in the regular world, the moon's haunted up there. I mean, nuts. But at the point, I think that this all ends with them just healing that asshole just laying there in Arkham, and he goes back to his family. The end, Eric. But that's the end of this issue. It looks okay.
No, I like the way it looks a lot, yeah.
But yeah, it's one, we had a prelude kind of issue with First Blood. This is the first numbered issue.
And even Batman felt like it was another prelude before this number one issue.
You're still recapping and you're already changing some rules and you're getting weird about it.
You're lessening the idea of the nightmare tie-ins that we have because it could also be in the real world, the waking world.
It doesn't matter.
You reveal in the first numbered issue that this guy's just some dude that got Lazarus rain on him. It almost feels like I'm like, what?
We're just normal men, Jim.
Why do I want to follow this guy?
Innocent men.
I don't read comics to see just some dude that got rained on. I don't need that.
Hey, look, Hal Jordan was just some dude until a ring went and grabbed him.
Yeah, well, this guy's still just some dude. At least Hal Jordan became, space
He's Insomnia,
Jesus, right?
The god of nightmares.
I like the idea where he's there. The first thing that happened, he gets rained on. He's like, oh, shit. Let's go. Oh, I can go into nightmares. Man, I better come up with a name. I'm going to go with Insomnia.
But that doesn't work because that means you can't sleep.
Well, yeah. So what did he do? Did he have like a chalkboard? He's like Insomnia, Nightmare Guy, Terror Terry. I don't know.
Dream Warrior.
Lazarus Rain Spectre Guy. Dream Warrior. Like, what did he do?
Dr. Eternity.
Insomnia he came up with, and he's like, that's it. When did he think that was the winner? Oh, God. But what would you give this?
Ultimately, I would give this issue a 6 out of 10 because the thing is, a lot of it is a recap of what we had for First Blood and even stuff that we learned about in Batman. Coming forward with the idea of we're going to describe the Nightmare Stone more. It even comes off more confusing how it's spelled out. If the Nightmare Stone is the same as the Dream Stone, who once possessed the Dream Stone. You and I have been going back and forth on this all week with this one panel of what the hell it's talking about on this page. But it's just like, at the end, okay. We got some cool stuff by the end because Dead Man in the body of Batman resurrected Wesley Dodds the Sandman with the last of the Lazarus residents. So hopefully this means we won't ever have to deal with Lazarus again, even though we were told previously, but in the pre-Flashpoint continuity, that the Earth needs Lazarus pits in order to survive itself.
Yeah, and then the science, Eric, the science of them. I'm a 5, just a 5. And everything, it's one of those things where when you start explaining your story, you don't make it better, not less. And everything felt less. Even that play of, oh man, it's either in the way, like when he says the waking world or the nightmares. I wanted Deadman to say, wait, time out. Like, that's not what you told us before. You're changing rules here, buddy. Maybe he's trying to throw him off. He was trying to throw him off. Oh, I know.
Because you don't even know that Insomnia, he has himself a posse outside of what his nightmare creatures are, it seems like.
You got fucking nightmare queens? I don't know you got the...
They're nighting people transforming into new things? I don't know what's happening anymore.
I don't either. And so, yeah, I'm a 5, and hopefully it'll get better.
And again, that's the weirdest part where somebody says the meat and cheese is all on the tie-ins. And I have to say, maybe they're right about the idea, but only the nightmare tie-ins. Once you get to the waking world, shit's going to be scrambled, changed this way and that. At least in the nightmares, like, okay, we know at least we're going to go in here. It's not going to matter. We don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. And you kind of, I don't know, you kind of have nightmare rules at some point, except when you get 2 guys in the same nightmare.
With Jennifer Maychild and Poison Ivy?
What? And the Robins, and it's just nonsense. It's like, that seemed to be a proximity thing. That doesn't make sense.
Sure.
That's why, like you said, it would be cool. Wait till I wonder what the Titans is going to be about. But when we end up, that'd be cool if you are doing something with the same mindset. Like, all right, we got to take down Gorilla Grodd, and then we go into maybe we could then shit, but nothing was spelled out. And like you said, you wish that, oh my God, Jason, when he gets knocked, and we'll get to that book in a minute, but the idea, like, he might be upset. Am I still a zombie? The Lazarus Resonance, Task Force Z, the faux
something.
But no, you just go same
being
thing.
A part of the Bat family, but still being adjacent to the point where nobody wants to hang out with you because you're still Jason Todd. Something along the lines of outside of the death of Jason Todd, because it's just so cliche anymore. Like everything else that we deal with, when any writer jumps on and says, all right, what are these people going to worry about? Well, better stick to the classics.
Nah. Would it be funny now, because he is kind of not fully really accepted at points to the Bat family, that he starts calling himself Adjacent Todd? Would that be good?
Honestly, it'd be some of the best writing I've seen in a long time.
Boom, I did it, Eric. But we're going to go to the next book, the tie-in here. And what is it, Eric?
Night Terrors, Green Lantern #1, written by Jeremy Adams, with art by Eduardo Pansico, Julio Ferrero, Luis Guerrero, and Dave Sharp, with a backup by Alex Segarra, and art by Mario Facillo, Prasad Rao, and Dave Sharp. But for our main story with Hal Jordan, as we saw in the last issue of Green Lantern, him and Carol's fiancée, they were just flying around until a nightmare wave hit them, and now all of a sudden Hal Jordan is in a dream world where he's reliving the funeral of his father. You know, the one thing that we always deal in, the thing that made him who he is, the trauma of seeing his father die during a piloting session. So we're just right back to the idea. Hal Jordan, he's a small boy. He's in his father's funeral. And then you get the nightmare aspect of it where his daddy comes out of the coffin like, I love you, boy. It's just these
I didn't mind
things.
that. This is the thing. Again, when we talked about this, I know that most of these aren't going to matter. So when you go into it, we know we're going to get basic stuff. The first thing I thought was, I hope Red Tornado's in the neighborhood because that plane is going down, Eric.
Oh, yeah.
But
I like to think that Red Tornado is, even though we see him save a plane, Red Tornado, in the Night Terrors #1, and it is a gigantic, commercial flight, it's different. I like to think that it's Hal's plane.
Well, you don't get it. Red Tornado gets the call, right?
Yeah.
And he's saving a 747. 140 people. Oh, no, Hal's playing with those 4 people in it. He just lets that plane. Hey, I think it can land. He goes up. At some point here, Harrison Ford's definitely crashed somewhere. And that was even before the nightmares.
Oh, yeah, that was before he fell asleep.
He's crashing. He'll blame it on the nightmares. But
until everything's said and done, let's just say autopilot.
yeah, I actually said that at the end. I think you're going to see that the ring protected them somehow in the deal. But you end up, and then I'm thinking, well, it is that will ring. But you end up in here.
It doesn't make sense for a normal Green Lantern with the idea of willpower, because when you're asleep, you don't have the consciousness to use your willpower. But because Hal Jordan is the person with most willpower in the universe, and he created his own ring, and it's different than anything we've seen before, his will is pretty much just emanating off him, and it can protect him. I was
going with the protection protocol, but then if it's not that and it's not a real ring, there's nonsense. But I don't mind this issue as much. I saw a lot of people hating this. At least when you go, and you're going to get the classics, right? You're going to get, oh my God, the dad, then we're going to go with Carol. But at least it does feel like at least the nightmare where you open the one door, oh my God, I'm in the, funeral. And then the next deal he goes. And I do like the concept. Usually you just get to see, oh, my daddy died. But when he becomes this monstrosity nightmare deal, I'm like, okay. And he does remember that he's half Jewish. You have a bunch of things that actually shows
but where his brother's at? I don't know.
Yeah, it's showing that Jeremy Adams, kind of knows a bit about this. But again, it's a weird play because he's only done 2 issues of Green Lantern. I don't know how in tune he is. If he did a Wally issue, I think we'd get even, something better. But here, it's one of those things. They didn't get any guidance. So when you're told to just do the standard nightmares, that's all you're going to get.
And that's the thing is you're going to get Hal Jordan greatest hits, because even the idea of the dead dad funeral, bad stuff happens, nightmare scenario. Okay, and then we're going to jump over to when Hal Jordan got his ring from Abin Sur, and then Abin Sur turns into a nightmare creature, blah, blah, nightmare. And then we're going to jump to Oa, and then the freaking idea of the United Federation of Planets, just to tie it in with the Guardians. Give something for Oa. And it's like, oh my God, nightmare scenario and Oa. And oh my God, it's Parallax. And it's just, I understand. It's just
the only big thing about this is that in this, it does mention what you did to Kilowog, and they've been hitting in the regular book that he actually killed Kilowog. So maybe that would be something that's cool to tie in. But I don't know what you can do here, especially after 2 issues of the book. You get into the nightmares and you just go basic and try to make it look good, which it does. And you get a little bit more, like the idea that Abin Sur, a lot of times you'll get that he ends up, you're not worthy, you don't have but here at least it's like, oh, I'm sucking the willpower in your life out of you. It gets a little horrific.
Well, it
really is nothing.
It's just nightmare stuff where Hal Jordan's given the ring, and the ring is just a conduit for these tubes to come out of Abin Sur's head into Hal Jordan to suck his life force. And at first, I really just wanted it to be the idea of the power ring, where Abin Sur was just giving this away as a way for him to be free finally, and the Volthoon spirit to suck the life force out of Hal. I just wanted something I don't know why, because that's where I thought initially it was going to go, but it's just a weird zombie Abin Sur with tubes coming out of his head, sucking the life force out of Hal Jordan. That's it.
The idea of this, I did talk to Jeremy Adams, not really about anything, but said, how you doing? What's going on with this? And he did say that he kind of struggled with this idea because you do have to set up the basic nightmare in the first issue, and then you want to do something with it, but you only have one issue left. And I said, that's what me and Eric have been talking about. These 2-issue things
they suck.
Is a problem. But he did say, hopefully people will enjoy. He actually almost said, listen, I understand that this is the basic stuff, but I had to get that. But in the next issue, I hope that people enjoy a little bit different. And maybe a lot of them will be like that, where you start out basic
that's the thing
to
is,
set up something. I don't know, though.
I don't know because, Jeremy Adams is doing stuff right off the bat with the idea of Hal Jordan not being a part of the core anymore, the idea that, Kilowog might be dead. Who knows what's going on that? And where his place on Earth is anymore, that Carol has moved on and he's just pretty much bumming around Hal Jordan as we saw him at the beginning of the New 52. I want these to be the things that we're focused on in his nightmares to actually give some character, depth to who Hal Jordan is now for the actual series. Like, use this as a way to tell a story that you didn't have time for normally because you want to keep the pacing going. And this is a way for us to understand through the subconscious of Hal Jordan what he's facing right now. But even when we have the idea where, let's just say Kilowog's dead, and that's the big mystery going on. Your report on the events that resulted in your fellow corpsman's death on Korugar has presented the Guardians with much to think about. I want to take a team back to the planet. We need to know how this happened, and I'm hoping we're not going. Your request denied. But when we have all this going on, I have to think that if this is the case, this is like the subconscious leaking through from what the real world is, where Kilowog died on Korugar for some reason, Sinestro's home planet. But Kilowog's also in this panel right before this happens too. So I'm like, I don't understand if that's the case, if we're actually playing that whole thing. And also, is that the thing where Sinestro's on the run because maybe he killed Kilowog, who's also a friend of his as well as Hal Jordan, and why he's on Earth.
You end up having it, and you end up having the Guardians and Kilowog there. And the Guardians say, hey, listen, you betrayed your oath. You betrayed your friends, the Lantern, and going with the whole idea of the United Federation of Planets and things like that. But when it's one of those like lucid dream things. He even says it wasn't that. It was you guys disappeared. And then even says, no, the room, you, Kilowog. I think he's saying, what the hell's Kilowog doing here? This must be a dream because he's fucking dead.
Why do we have to kill Kilowog again? We've already killed Kilowog off before and had to resurrect his ass, and now we're going to kill him again and find out about it later on.
It's really his name, Kilowog, Eric. But yeah, and he ends up like at that point, when he attacks them, he's attacking all of them as if you guys aren't real. You're dupes. Maybe he thinks at this point they're Durlans, which would be kind of a cool play. The idea where he doesn't understand. But even then at that point, when they kind of shapeshift into the nightmare creatures, they do say, you actually are pretty good. Most of your other brethren here, they're just duped and going through these nightmares, but you actually are able to see and fight back with it. But yeah, it would have been cool if he thought it was Durlans and was like, oh no, not you guys again.
Just sticking with the dream scenario, making it make sense within the your mind itself. Like, hey, you're not right. Not thinking to yourself, this is a dream. Oh, you're Durlans taking over the Oa, whatever it is, or Moga. Actually, we're back on Oa now. I always forget how it works out because it seemed like we kept switching up how the planet worked and rebuilding the planet and we're on Moga.
Too. As he's saying it, he's even saying this room because that was blown up. And so you have a lot of things going on that I do like that. I think that if you really look into it, I think that Jeremy Adams is trying to give you something to go forward with this book. And I think that the next issue will be, more of that. And I hope that
I just hope, though, because we have this situation going on in Oa, talking to the Guardians, which might be revealing some mysteries within the book that we don't even know yet. If you just follow along, Kilowog's dead. Hasn't actually been in the book. It's just Hal with his guilty conscience or whatever, talking to a dead friend as if he was still in the room. So you have this going. I just hope that idea doesn't continue when all of a sudden Parallax comes out of the central power battery. I'm like, I don't want to go back to Parallax. I mean, the thing is, I miss Parallax and the idea of what all of the entities for the different emotional spectrums. So I miss them really bad. But for some reason, I just don't want us to go back to Parallax territory when we get done Night Terrors.
I know, but I think this is just the nightmare.
No, I agree.
Says, you're just going to go in and out when he says, welcome to your greatest nightmare. I think that this is all formed into, all right, we tried to dupe you. Because, again, this is where I was going to talk about earlier when I mentioned the idea of how I was making it work in my head. If you end up having now, the weird play of this is that, unfortunately, Insomnia has spelled out that he isn't causing the nightmares that happen.
The fears
are. It seems okay, right? Each individual, like when he said to Batman, these are your nightmares. I'm not making them. But I wish that he was, and what he was doing is go with the basic stuff. And really the idea, nightmares is a weird play anyway, but he would want these nightmares to continue for as long as he can go through to find this damn nightmare stone. But with it doesn't matter because it doesn't ever seem like that's connected. But that should be the play. It almost should be the nightmare mercy instead of the black mercy. Get them caught in these dreams and Nightmare so I can go and see them. Maybe some of their actions will result in the Nightmare Stone coming about. None of that's set up. And so these tie-ins are just, like you said, you're like, I hope we don't get paired. Nothing is spelled out. You just have shit happening, and it just doesn't matter, as we keep saying. But overall, I do like that Kilowog little play there on the Guardians.
No, I'm sorry, that's the best part of the book, because it's actually doing something outside of the Night Terrors event that means something to the actual series that is stopping right now, because it's giving you hints and clues within the dreamscape of Hal Jordan. But the majority of the issue itself is like I said before, it's the greatest hits, and I always just want something more from these books than just that, because it's always the bare minimum. It feels like whenever you have a situation like this, and even when you get to Sinestro, though, it's like, hey, Sinestro was on Earth. We saw him in Green Lantern #1 hanging on Earth, so he's asleep now. And even before he falls asleep, though, I just want to know what happened to Sinestro more than anything that Hal Jordan's doing right now on Earth, because for some reason, whatever happened to Sinestro turned him into the biggest bitch possible, because this is a guy who was one of the most feared beings in the universe for his willpower, his training. He is was the greatest Green Lantern of all time before Hal Jordan came along. And now he's just a guy on the street. Yes, he doesn't have a ring, but he bumps into some guy and the guy knocks him on his ass. I'm like, who is this Sinestro? Why can't he fight back? He is a Corpsman.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I could barely even make hide or hair of this fucking backup. I hated it. But when you get to the one part where they mention, we're going back to Korugar. Korugar, we can't do, there is that connection when you ended up having Hal being told, oh, what you did on Korugar and what happened to Kilowog. Yeah. What did happen is that why you do have Sinestro on Earth going to get Hal and maybe find out that Hal, though it looked like he was the one who caused this big disaster, he didn't. And
are we going to do this weird thing where all of a sudden this is going to be how Jon Stewart blew up the planet Xanshi before, and somehow Hal Jordan blew up Korugar and everybody's blaming him, so he had everything he turned down the Green Lanterns himself, so he didn't have a dishonorable discharge.
Yeah, and then for some reason fatality shows up, just to throw shit out there again. But no, I think that's the connection. That's what I'm interested in. And I would love to have Sinestro realize, I hate to admit it, but I know you didn't do what this big disaster happened, and me and you are teaming up to go and, try to figure this out together would be a pretty cool setup, and maybe that's what we're getting here. But I'm telling you, the Sinestro part, I'm like, all right, I see him there. I'm out of here.
Whatever happened to Korugar, it feels like maybe that Sinestro did it himself, because even the people he's faced up against are past versions of himself. The evil one, the Green Lantern one, and it seems like maybe whatever happened to Korugar, which might be weighing on his mind, is his fault.
Now, I actually think it's one of those plays you usually get where it happened where he couldn't stop it, and they're going to, you should have been there to stop it, and he couldn't. And now he's got to figure out. But when he says Korugar, that's impossible. That's not possible. And there's that little bit okay, I get that stuff that will go on later. That's cool. But overall, it really is a nothing issue. But a lot of these are.
It feels so weird to have a backup that was Sinestro. I know he was on Earth in the first issue of Green Lantern, but did we really need a Sinestro backup for this Night Terrors Green Lantern? It feels so weird.
Yeah, you had an extra buck, Eric. But what would you give this?
Ultimately, I'd give this a 6 out of 10 as well, because I think the art is fine throughout, and even though the Sinestro backup kind of doesn't fail. It just falls short of the art we got for the main story. It does its own thing well enough, I think, but it's just, we have the greatest hits, and that's all we ever have, and it's just so underwhelming to read. I'm just happy that we had that part on where we got some clues and hints about what's actually going on in the main book, because that's the savior of this overall.
Yeah, I'm a 6 as well. We'll move on to the next book, which, greatest hits, Eric. What are we talking about?
Night Terrors Robin, #1, written by Kenny Porter with art by Miguel Mondanca, Adriano Lucas, and Tom Napolitano. And for some reason in this book, we have a book that features Tim Drake and Jason Todd, my two favorite Robins. And when the Dreamwave hits during their individual little crime-stopping sprees that there are, their missions, their individual missions, they're both thrown into a dreamscape together and then torn apart and then find each other again in their dreamscape, where they have to go collectively figure out what's going on. Tim Drake, the average detective that he is, knows that things aren't right. He's trying to dream walk a little bit. What's that called? Lucid dreaming. He's trying to figure things out so he can lucid dream a little bit and figure things out, because he knows whatever he's dealing with is not right. But he also can't help himself, because the dream that he finds himself in is the death of his father over and over again. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, why does everybody bring up the idea that he lost his mother too well before his father? We just never bring her up. But there's just so much going on with Tim Drake's life right now that I think would be way more relevant and on his mind, more precedent for him to be worrying about, because him becoming bisexual and the fear that he has with that, even the idea of being with Bernard and what's that mean? Even Bernard maybe even knowing that he's Robin, which I don't even think they brought up in the final issue of the Tim Drake Robin book, something along those lines. So something more that would tell you that, like, who Tim Drake is right now, not what he dealt with back in 2003.
Or maybe he's like upset because it might rain and flood the marina, shit like that. Or maybe like
normal shit.
Maybe, James might be Moriarty again.
Oh, my God. Pi thinks that I'm cheating on Bernard with Robin? Oh, I can't have this.
At one point, he actually wakes up and, Megan Fitzmartin, he just yells it out to nobody.
That'd be hilarious.
Oh, it would be. Zach Walker actually wanted to think that boat that's for sale, like, this isn't a twisted joke. He thought that was shade. I'm like, I think it's opposite, but the whole play of all this, it just ends up, like you said, and it's funny because we mentioned Megan Fitzmartin, obviously, but she kind of made it seem like the death of his parents didn't mean shit to him. Remember, the whole idea was like, I never saw anybody die in front of me. They didn't fall off a trapeze. I'm like, no, I think that most people think that he went through some terror there.
Your mother died, your father moved on, remarried, and then he was murdered by Captain Boomerang, and you found his dead body?
Pretty bad. Yeah, and again, if it would matter, and you kind of expand on some things, the idea of the Tim part where he is trying to be a hero, and you even see before they hit the nightmare wave, he's there trying to keep up with Batman. He wants to prove himself. All that. He's really pushing. And I like the idea then in the nightmare, when you're seeing this, that it is, and that's a classic nightmare. Something bad is happening. You just, I told you at one point, I used to have a nightmare where it was kind of like how you go with nightmares. Like, I'll wake up and I don't know what the threat was, but in the nightmare, the whole play was me trying to fire a gun. And I never had fired a gun. And the idea of pulling the trigger, it was too heavy for me to actually be able to press it. And I thought, I'm too weak. I wasn't able to protect myself or whoever. But yeah, and you go into the psychology of that. It makes sense. The idea that I'm afraid that I'm not somebody who could protect my family or friends or loved ones. And that's pretty cool. So when you do have this, but you need more than that for this. And I wanted to say, and you were talking about the idea of getting these same nightmares again and whatnot. That's bad enough when you have it in the regular run of a book, which we always do. If you have Jason Todd in a book, he's going to have some time where he's yelling about crowbars and the Joker. That gets us upset if it's a spread page in one issue of a run. This is a fucking event that ended up stopping all of the books, and that's what we're getting? We're getting shit that would have annoyed us in a spread page of a regular issue in a regular run. You can't just do that. You have to up it, because some of this might have been decent enough, but not in this circumstance, not with an event that you're getting people to tie in 40-some issues this damn thing is, and this is what we're going to get, the greatest hits?
Well, like, you have Insomnia in the the Tim Drake part of it, when he looks like a weird, I don't know, Tim Drake who laughs version of Tim Drake for how he shows up. Because this doesn't look like Insomnia, but it's close to it. But when you have Jason Todd's dream, you have an exaggerated helmet with a Joker upside down smile on the old Red Hood helmet that the Joker used to wear, with Jason Todd's old outfit, what he's wearing. And they're gigantic monsters with crowbars, and they're battling. And at the one point, the Joker says to him when he removes the helmet, face it, the red helmet you wear is just one step away from the man who put you down. I'm sitting there but he doesn't wear that anymore, and he hasn't worn that for a while. And I'm actually upset that he doesn't wear the red helmet anymore. He just has an actual red hood.
And even when he did, we get it. We know that. It's funny because I don't know if you ever played the deal or the Jason or the Tim Drake. Looks like the Darkness a bit, the comic book character, and then also
we say that too for somebody. He looks like the Soul Reaver to me a little bit.
That's actually
from the Legacy of Kain.
Right. He looks more like Legacy of Kain. I knew it was something, and I was thinking that it is Legacy of Kain. Please, sir.
I don't remember what that character's name was, but it was the Soul Reaver spinoff of Legacy of Kain series. That was pretty cool.
Soul Reaver.
But that's who this character looks like, though, in Tim Drake's dream, who is Insomnia. But with glowing Captain boomerangs.
I had Soul Reaver deal for the Dreamcast as well. Pretty cool. Pretty cool, Eric. But
I only played it on the PlayStation.
And it's funny, in this one, you end up really seeing the Dr. Destiny teeth kind of deal. It looks more like everybody's got their own deal. But again, I don't mind if it was something else and you're just seeing this and again, if this would have been in the Megan Fitzmartin series, this might have been the best thing ever in that book. The idea where he is trying desperately to save his dad and it keeps resetting just to show him he'll never be able to save him. to then have the Bat family show up, and, hey, there's Steph, you're my best friend. And it was weird then not having Bernard in this at all. But you end up where they're like, oh, you're supposed to be a hero and you can't even save your own dad. Like, that shows that insecurity of being a superhero that Tim Drake does have. And I like that. But again, is it enough?
He has so many more insecurities going on currently.
Seriously, if it wasn't for insecurities, he wouldn't have security. So you know what I'm saying there?
Like, it's almost like everything that we have playing out right now with these dreams is almost like we had with those spread pages for the Unstoppable Doom Patrol. That was those quick little backgrounds on every every part of the character that without having any real context. Because it's like, at the end of the day, you're just insecure and you need to stop that. Okay, Dr. Cinco.
Okay. Yeah. The weird play of this too is it's funny because Tim and Jason, I don't know, they have their little connections, you know what I mean, for where they were, but we never have nowadays the idea where you don't understand me, Jason, and you don't understand me. So you almost, because you have the two in here, maybe you get a Freaky Friday, Eric, and all of a sudden Tim is facing the Joker crowbar things and then realizes, oh my God, I just walked in Jason's shoes, but there's nothing that would be good about that. But why are they in here together? Doesn't make any sense anyway, but you just get the normal thing. And I wish that they could help each other and do some more stuff like that. But
what are they even doing? Because then they're just calling, I'm telling you, they're together in the dream, they're separated, they fight their own, worst nightmares, which for Jason is just Joker versions of him with crowbars, ganging up on him. Tim's dealing with the death of his father again and again, and then the death of the entire Bat family through different boomerangs.
Is Jason the stupidest guy ever, though, by the end? I mean, seriously, the idea that he gets if I shoot the Joker, it becomes two Jokers. Then I shoot those two Jokers. At the end, it's everybody's a joke. It's so ridiculous. Like,
I wanted to love this issue so much because, like I said at the beginning of this whole review, I love these Robins so much. I love Jason Todd as the Red Hood. I don't like the way he looks currently, and I haven't for a while now, but I still love Jason Todd. Like everything else I think we're going to talk about throughout all of Night Terrors, I just want there to be more than the freaking circus level bullshit that we get for each and every issue.
That's all this is. And maybe I don't know.
You could have used this whole thing too, because, while we had that one, I think it was the Pride issue, but I'm not sure where, when Tim moved on and was with Bernard, and then we saw what what Steph finally thought about this. He's like, oh, I'm so happy. This is the best day ever. Thank God this happened.
It wasn't the Pride issue. I ended up remembering because we talked about this before. That was when they actually collected the Urban Legend story into a trade, and then that was the additional story.
Oh, that was the additional story. Okay, so
whatever that made it so they get to trade.
But that was just such a weird conclusion for Steph to have for this entire long relationship she's had with Tim Drake, just for her to be so happy. Like, yes, you have to be we have to present our heroes as good people who aren't going to be pissed off that my boyfriend's bisexual now and left me for a man. But you have to have some feelings, and even if we can't see a surface, on the surface with Steph, we could at least see some inner turmoil from Tim's side about how he feels about it.
That's the big, and you say that. Now, I was going to say, which I think we're going to get next issue, I just kind of wanted the smart Robins here to figure out they're in a dream and that they can team up together to, I think that's what happens in the next issue. I think they become Dream Warriors. But when you say this about Cass, or actually Steph and Tim, boy, this would have been a great idea to have that play of Tim thinking that while he wants to do what his heart tells him, whatever, he is going to lose one of his best friends. He's afraid that she is just kind of surface level being nice and afraid he's hurt her and that he'll never...
normal human emotions and feelings.
Just the idea. I mean, I know that they really, when things happen, because like you said, and you kind of skirted a little around the issue, but not really. The idea, if Steph acted like a real person who was just upset
would
that
be hurt?
Her boyfriend broke up with him. She's all upset about it. DC be afraid that people would take that as her being homophobic or, a hateful. That's not
supporting
the case.
Tim, but still.
Make it natural. So
exactly.
When you have all this going down, where is that play with Tim who thinks everything's great and all of a sudden, wait a second, there's Steph with another guy? That still might end up affecting him more than he ever thought. Because he's just like, oh my God, I'm kind of doing this now. I love Bernard, but who knows what happens when you see, oh, look at Steph dating Damien now. Going young.
What the fuck?
Something like that. Like, even if it was anything.
Just bring out Kyle, Maps' brother.
Yeah, Kyle. Damien. Maps can date Damien then, and that works out when they were at Gotham Academy together.
You say that, but Damien's with Flatline. That's all I want to see ever again.
Yeah, that's true. And double XL. So a little 3 play. You end up 3XL then. But when you end up, and I'm hitting the rim shot for that. When you get that, it would have been a really neat thing to see actual emotions and see that in that insecurity and things that maybe even, I know that people lose their minds, some people, but the idea that Tim actually in his nightmares, like, did I make the right decision? Did I do the right thing?
The motherfucker is footloose and fancy-free about everything in his life besides what happened in 2003 with the death of his father. His death of his mother, I wasn't involved with that. I don't care. But the death of my father, I was already a Robin.
I
should have been there.
Lives at a marina. That's a nightmare right there. That place stinks. It probably smells like shit. You're there. I tell you all the time, I have to sleep on a damn boat. The one time we had a hockey tournament in Seattle City. That thing was a rockin' and a knockin'. I threw up like 7 times. It was the worst. It was so bad. It stunk. Everything was damp. I woke up the next day, quarter on my ass. My pants were off. I didn't even know what happened there. It's just the worst. So let's see something a little more unique, something thought through. And that's the problem is these things don't really feel like anybody did any sort of thought to them. They just like, do this. Just throw it. Almost like you're not going to give me info. Well, fuck this. I'm going full out. Like they don't want to ruin something that can't be ruined. I don't know. Then Tim ends up in a bed full of dolls.
It's just all these problems. The thing is, hey. I do have a few. I got a Snorlaxus over here right now, but that's cool.
What the hell?
But just the idea. You're always writing these characters two-dimensional, and it makes sense. These are comic book like characters, so like you don't have to work too hard with it, but make people care about comics again. Make people care about these characters by actually showing some, human emotions, some human traits in here to make these more than just the two-dimensional characters that are on a two-dimensional page.
Or there's another play that I still think this doesn't do. Even with the greatest hits, I don't think this is a good jumping on point for a new reader to really see how great these characters are. You're just getting these things thrown in from the past, that thing we always get, but it's not anything that's going to get you like, oh my God, this Jason Todd's awesome. It's just here and it just doesn't work for me. But what would you give this?
Ultimately, I think the art is fine throughout. I like seeing a book that features Jason Todd and Tim Drake. The thing about that is the way it works out doesn't make any sense at all. I'm just happy that they're here and they're together, but it doesn't make any sense for it. So it just does not help my score at all. So I'm at a 4.5 out of 10 for how this works out because I just found myself so disappointed. Like, hey, the art's good. Tim looks great. Jason, I don't like the costume, but at least he looks great the way he's drawn in a costume that I don't like. It's just none of the nightmares make sense to me, and it's all surface level nonsense.
Yeah, and again, we were talking about just Tim at the end there, but even Jason. The idea
we talk about Jason
family
enough.
Doesn't accept them, and he was a zombie, and everything's going wrong, and he actually does keep laying things down on the line for Batman to then get fucked over anyway. So you have a lot of things you could work with that, and in a dream where, say, they're together and Tim is all worried about, stepping, have Jason help him out and give Jason a chance to actually feel like he's a hero at points. Like, he's always behind the 8-ball here. Everybody always looks at him with snake.
Just do something different because you have the basic idea of the Joker attacking him, his greatest fear, crowbars, his mother being killed, bombs exploding. It's always the death in the family. For when it's Jason Todd involved, let's do something different. Like out of nowhere, it's like we see that in this like subconscious how Jason Todd actually feels about the death of Alfred Pennyworth and how it's been tearing him up, and then why he joined Task Force Task Force Z in order to kill the zombie Bane for taking the real father figure away from him. Something just more than this.
Show me some emotions that would really show me because his brothers and that. The idea that Damien saw that, and we actually see because we never really do get any sort of those emotions from Jason. And what would have been hilarious is both of them get pulled away. And again, you're going to play this whole thing with insomnia. And Jason's like, oh man, where am I? This shit again? Like, you really think I'm afraid of this? Like, I've dealt with this shit a million times.
That's the thing. I feel like we've actually done that within the last 6 months. I swear we had an issue somewhere where he actually talks about how I don't worry about this stuff anymore. It doesn't bother me.
It was when they started talking about the crowbar. And I forget who it was that even said, oh, crowbar, that's really on. He's like, it doesn't mean shit to me anymore. I just like it. Like the idea that he's taking it back to the streets. And why not do that? Why not show, like, you really think that this is going to bother me now at this point? That's ridiculous. That would have been a really cool thing. And then it would, like that, how Jordan ended, it kind of would like mold into something else or whatnot. But then we could have gotten something a little better with that wink, wink of, we know you always get this when you get nightmares, but he's gone beyond that. I'd love it.
Or at least
and then at the end, he gets the painting, right?
Or at least give somebody like who was a big fan of the New 52, Red Hood and the Outlaws, like have him bring the blades
I was
out
thinking of
something along those lines, just to showcase some other stuff that you can to make somebody happy somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. Me and you. Does it make you laugh at the end when you get to the end? I keep looking like some of them say to be concluded, some of them say to continue. I'm like, I kind of like that I see to be concluded because I want to get the hell out of this. But with all that, that's the end of the first section. We're trying to have some skewering and reviewing, but we're going to go off now to some mail. And it's time for the mail. And if you want to be part of the mail section of the podcast, all you have to do is email us at weirdsciencedccomics@gmail.com. Just like Andrew in Belfast starts off this mail section with Ola, Jim, and Eric.
Ola!
There's no guy named Ola.
What?
This is me and Eric. Hope all good with you and the crew down at the rec center at Quakertown, PA.
It's hot.
It's hot, and we had some flooding just the other day, and I don't mean Eric's jeans. Hey!
Swamp ass.
I have two. That's my character that they're like, hey, we got a character we want you to write. Oh, really? What is it? Swamp? Oh, ass. I'm writing myself.
Sorry, wait, were you going with the swamp ass joke, or are you just saying that I cuff up my pants pretty high?
I was just saying that you cuff your pants up. I have two questions for America's Sweetheart this week. I thought you called me swamp ass.
No.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I got a flood in my pants.
Thank you for not... Really? That's all you got in your pants, my friend? Ooh-wee. I should be nice to you. You didn't call me swamp ass, so I will be nice. You're an asshole. I have two questions for America's Sweetheart this week. Ooh, my. Right. I hope one involves swamp ass. Number one, what is Eric's favorite McFarlane toy for DC?
Oh, boy. What a question. It's like saying, what's my favorite child? And like Jim knows, that's very easy to pick out. But the thing is, with these mega figs that they put out, like the really big ones, I love them so much. I was thinking about it earlier where I think Man-Bat and the Calabac figure are two of my favorites. But like for regular 7-inch figures, I never thought I'd like it because I like the mainline, regular DC Comics figures. Unlike if you have an Injustice or this, that, and the other thing, or even the movie figures. I never want a part of that. But McFarlane hasn't done a proper Green Arrow figure yet. So I went and bought the Injustice Green Arrow with the Robin Hood cap on. And now it sits right here in front of me as we do the podcast because he's so goddamn cool.
Oh, you're wrong, Eric. You didn't realize this was a test. He says, I recently bought the Superman Black Adam Edition 7-inch figure. It's about 3 inches more than Eric is. I think it is the best-looking Superman released by McFarlane, but hope to see a better Superman figure from them in the future.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of the Action Comics 1000 Superman. I have that one right here, too, on his flight stand.
Okay. Is that a 7-inch?
Yes,
or are you just happy to see me? 2, does Eric watch the Superman and Lois show on CW?
I don't watch it on CW because I don't have cable, but I do catch up the reruns on HBO Max when they go out. So I'm only on season 1 and 2 at this point. I'm waiting for season 3 to drop.
He says, I have watched seasons 1 and 2 over the last month, and I think it's fantastic. I'm not sure if Jim watches the CW shows, but if not, I highly recommend it. I don't watch any of that. I'm watching New Jeans. They got a new album coming out. Eric.
The hell is New Jeans?
That stuff. That's a K-pop band that's going to take over the world, Eric.
Oh, yeah?
You'll see. Mark my words,
but I have no idea about it.
You will, because I'll tell you. Stork will tell you, too. And maybe even Luke Hollywood. I had started watching Titans, but it's very dark and violent. Although Hawk and Dove were brilliantly cast.
Sure were.
Oh, goodness. All I keep seeing is people losing their minds.
I think I'm in love with Dove.
Yeah, I keep seeing all of the people. Is that Minky or something?
Sounds right.
Her name. I think maybe she dated Derek Jeter or something, but who didn't? I don't know. I don't even know who the hell it is. What am I saying? The idea of all
Minka
this.
Kelly.
Minka Kelly.
Yes.
All I keep seeing is people like, hey, everybody, they just, announced the casting for 800 people in that Superman Legacy. Yeah, I don't know. Some people are saying it might be a little too much. I just keep thinking,
wait and see.
They're announcing shit. They can't do crap. Why are they announcing this shit? Oh, my.
Get me excited.
Yes. I had always said about the Titans. I love these. I don't know if Jim watches the CW. Really? What do you think I am?
I don't know.
What do you think I am? A child? Yeah, that's it. I'm a comic book fan. I try to explain that to people. I don't really like the shows or movies. But what I usually say now, because there's that one review for another podcast that it sticks with me. all these years.
You ain't never watched the Aquaman movie?
I'm not going to listen to this podcast because the one guy did watch the Aquaman movie. So what I say I just said it last night to somebody.
So good,
they're
though.
like, oh, you should watch this, this, and this. And I just say, it would shock you at the amount of movies I haven't seen. That's all I say. I never really spell it out. There's a lot of looking through binoculars and like heavy breathing. And actually, I don't even know if that's in the movie now or just in my real life. It's kind of gone together. But yeah, we'll see her. I'm not even gonna. I'm afraid to say what I haven't seen. And actually, it's easier to say what I have seen. I did see the Snyder cut of the Justice League, right? It took me like 7 weeks. And then I did a podcast on it, but other than that, not much at all. Not much at all.
The thing is, I watched 2 movies, like horror movies last night that like came out like last year. I think maybe they both came out last year. But the idea is I've been wanting to watch it for a while and realized they were finally on streaming, so I could finally watch them. Watched 2 of those. It probably took me 3 hours. I don't know if I'm actually going to find the time to have a 4-hour sit down just to watch the Snyder cut of the Justice League again.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I have a backlog of movies, and really everybody's like, "Hey, you see that Indiana Jones?" I'm like, no, I haven't. Is Temple of Doom good? Actually, that's my backlog. It's so far back. I don't know. I started arguing with somebody about it. While I do love it, people want to actually. It's like saying like, "Hey, you like Led Zeppelin? What's your favorite song?" You don't want to say "Stairway to Heaven" because then you look like an asshole. So it's cool to say, "Oh, well, I actually like Hot Dog."
Hot Dog the movie?
No, the song.
I know.
In Through the Outdoors. No, stop it. Stop trying to be cool and just like what people like. Well, what's your favorite Beatles song? Well, actually, it's Revolution Number 9.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Nobody said that, not even John. I think he's like, Yoko made me do it. That's what I think he said after. Nonsense, Eric, but still. Have been reading. It's also the idea. Me and you both love the second Bill and Ted movie.
Sure do. Bogus Journey.
Bogus Journey, it's great
I hated it when it came out.
Overplayed. And it aged like fine wine.
My God, it did.
I remember going to the theater and seeing it, and I walked out pissed. I might have even punched my friend Herb because we walked out and he's like, "Man, that was awesome." I might have, but then again, if we had a video podcast and we had a lot of production value, I would have a skit here of all the fucking movies that I walked out with Herb that he said were the best things ever, like Phantom Menace, best Star Wars ever, Punch. Everyone would end with me punching him. That's when me, Herb, and Rick lived in a house, and we went and saw Phantom Menace. We get out, and Herb goes, "Man, that's going to go down as the best Star Wars movie." I berated him for probably 5 days straight. That was the word. Like, just went off and told him nobody will ever say.
The hype is real, though. I'm telling you, I got a job at the movie theater just so I could see that movie for free when it came out in 1999. And the problem with that was, as I was working there, because I got the job ahead of time, so I made sure that I was like, there when it was going to go down. Then the word came down. Lucas was not letting anybody see the movie for free, and even ushers couldn't spend more than like 5 minutes in a theater at a time. It was the craziest thing ever. I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Fuck that guy. That's why I got a job.
And then I quit.
Yeah. You quit and couldn't afford to see it.
Yeah.
Hey,
I was poor
it's
kid.
on you. I'm telling you, every movie we came out, Ernest Goes to Camp. Best Ernest movie ever. I mean, everything that we came
Ernest
out
goes
of the
to jail,
guy.
obviously. That was the first one.
Is true. It's true. I'm trying to think of the others, like the third Matrix movie. That's
terrible.
Every movie, that guy, he could not ever not like a movie. That's why he likes horror movies, Eric.
I'm telling you, the thing is, the guy should be online reviewing movies right now. Fucking make a killing.
I actually, at one point, because me and him occasionally would talk to each other, he would send me some messages and stuff like that. And I would, every time he messaged me, I'm the asshole, just like, "Hey, how's that Phantom Menace doing nowadays? What do you?" And he always laughs. But me and him watched American Ninja in a 1 year span, probably 1,000 times. We would just watch it every day. We'd come home from work, and that would be how we would kind of wind down, having that movie on. And our other roommate, Rick, would come in the room and, "You're watching this again?" And we would just laugh. And I said to him at one point, I wanted him to do a Patreon show with me of all these movies. And he said he was gonna, and then he ghosted me.
I get it.
He didn't gaslight me, but he ghosted me, and I haven't heard from him since. I don't know. The funny thing, too, is my buddy Pete, we share the same birthday. And on our birthday just a couple weeks ago, he did end up sending me a message, and he said, "Hey, happy birthday. How old are we?" I actually realized I forgot that me and him shared a birthday. I thought he was playing some pronoun game with me. I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, what? And then shit. That was like our big thing. That's how out of touch I am with my friends.
You're a bad friend.
I am. I'm a terrible friend. It's like out of sight, out of mind. Or, as they say in Italy, leaves us with is, he actually goes on. Have been reading about one DC book a week since the spookiest month began, so no comic chat from me this week. So until Night Terrors ends, make mine Marvel. Ooh. Oh, wait, their books are terrible, too.
So
they have, I don't know, what is it, Night Boars? Is that...
Night Boars? That's what you're coming up with?
It's boring, Eric, is all I'm saying.
Not the night moves.
I could say like Night Errors or something. I should do. I actually was still trying to work on that Night Fever parody. It just, I can't do that high falsetto in there, and you can't understand what I'm saying.
Where's my Cranberry song?
Well, we'll get that going. Eric, we have a new song coming up after this into the new section. I think it'll make you smile.
Good.
It's not really throwing shade. Well, it is throwing shade, but it's funny shade.
Good. I like funny shade.
It is kind of funny. And it's really based on your complaints, so I think you'll like it. Make mine vintage Grant Morrison, he says. Oh, the Invisibles, would you? You would hate that, Eric. There is no way you'd be able to read that. The Marquis de Sade making people into their, like, fuck toys. Am I allowed to say
just real
that?
life. Yeah.
It sounded really dirty. As they say in Italy.
That's called history.
See you later, alligator. From Andrew. The next
crocodile.
And the next deal is, well, that's what they say in Wales.
Oh.
J-Man's next. He
Melbourne.
says, hey, Jim. Melbourne. What's up, Eric?
What's up, J-Man?
Last week, I thought you were going to forget to say.
Told ya, comic books was bad.
They was bad for you, Eric. Last week for DC, you told me I wasn't hitting those enough. You also said that about my kids. It's not appropriate. Last week for DC.
I still stand by it.
I only picked up Clown Maker. You jerk. Last week for DC, I only picked up the Night Terrors Ravager book because I heard a rumor that it was the most important book.
And it's true, right?
No, I'm telling you, you're going to be so disappointed. Just out of, just a prediction. It's not even a prediction. Nothing's going to happen in that book. You're going to be so upset.
You wait and see. You wait and see, Jim.
I hope you're right. I am not a big Dead Man fan. And I'm a little tired of dreamed Elseworlds tales that you always get when somebody accidentally runs into Black Mercy plants. Is that like a factory? Or Pariah, or whatever. So I really have no interest in getting the main Night Terrors title. Maybe a smart move. This week, I decided to give a handful of Night Terrors books a try, though. He ended up getting a lot of tie-ins. And this is, again, that kind of goes back to the person telling me. What's the worst part about the mail?
I want him to tell me what he thought about Ravager being the most important book.
I think that he's trying to, save your feelings. I ended up getting Night Terrors issues for The Flash, Zatanna, Robin, Green Lantern, and Shazam. After reading all these, I remembered what I hate about this whole nightmare concept. Especially when it's done poorly. There are really no set rules. Well, that's how nightmares work. It's so funny. You can play that, but also throw that Lazarus Range shit in. Everything's up for grabs. Can the heroes use their powers consistently? Do any of these nightmare worlds follow rules of any sort? That's the best. When you're talking about an event, you should never go about any sort of, connective tissue. Are any of these scenarios truly scary for the main characters in that particular issue? The Tim Drake, maybe. That might be a little scary.
Jordan seemed kind of scared when his daddy came out the coffin.
Yes, hell yeah. Yarmulke went fucking right off the back of his head and he ran. Are there any page-turner surprises or unexpected fears of the characters that the creators are able to mine for a decent story?
No.
Do any events in an issue feel like it could lead to something interesting going forward in that character's regular ongoing post-Night Terrors? Actually, you say that. All I want is that this Night Terrors ends and we get no teeth fucking Tim Drake. We didn't even mention that. Fucking all his teeth are gone. I need that to end up. And then they turn to dust and I'm like, what is he, me?
What's up, Gummy?
I need that. Then all of a sudden he goes up to eat a steak and he can't because he's just gums. Were there any cool team-ups you don't normally see that worked for the story?
No.
Sinestro teamed up with a bunch of Sinestros, right?
Well, no, hold on. We got Dead Man and Batman's body teaming up with a zombie Wesley Dodds.
Wow, we're going to get that in. That was just a clip.
Got it.
Please. The answer to all those questions was a resounding no, with the exception of the awesome team-up between Zatanna and Robot Man. Eric, we'll be talking about that book coming up. Now, again, that sounds cool. All of a sudden, you got the Rusty Knight. What the hell are you doing, Rusty? The next thing and really, if you're going to play this game, I needed him to get so scared he shit out nuts and bolts. There was a number of things that the creators could have done to make their particular stories more effective. How about we have the main character briefly wake up at some point so that we may see the effects of the dream world on their physical state? You're going to have to wait till the end on that, and I don't think there'll be that much of repercussions. Again, they're supposed to just be nightmares, and I'll tell J-Men and reiterate what we've been saying. They didn't get any guidance. These things, for the most part, from what I was told, they were just told, do the basic nightmares and whatever and out. Never really told anything about it. I do think that Dennis Culver, being a friend of Joshua Williamson, may have gotten a little bit of a whisper down the lane. He seemed to be a little more connected. But the cool thing in the Nightmare on Elm Street series was when you saw a character wake up from their nightmare screaming in a cold sweat with marks, bruises, or pain that reflects what happened to them in the dream world, Eric.
That's right.
Why I always wake up with my pants down in the quarter on my ass. The only night terrors, KT, like KT. Oh, there you go. I mean, I didn't really want to come out and say it, but possibly.
Oh,
I read there, cool. Anyone seemed to be concerned with what happens to the dreamer's body was the Zatanna issue, where they spent a good deal of the issue moving Diana and Detective Tim's body to a safe location. And he is giving props to that issue because of that, but that was the issue that was set up to do that. You know, you can't really have Hal Jordan worrying about anything. He's in a nightmare. You can't have
there's nobody around him to worry about it because he's in a plane somewhere where everybody else is asleep.
Yeah, and he can't do anything about him anyway. So it would have been nice, like the idea if you had that, you know, that whole play of the vicinity deal, the proximity, that you would have had that fiance and Carol in the dream with them. Maybe you could have seen him be a hero.
That would have sucked.
They didn't play it that way anyway. Only Robin and Jason Todd.
Doesn't make sense. I don't want any more of that stuff.
Was Hal really challenged by any of his supposed nightmares? Well, we did point out, like I said, it does set up the idea, did he actually kill Kilowog? And he had to fight out, realizing, wait a second, the Guardians are missing. This, room was blown up and Kilowog's dead, so what's going on? Why does Barry always have
to resort to... where's the Teen Lantern?
The cosmic treadmill, never to be seen again, or time travel, or some other sort of save the day, especially in some dream world. Mary Marvel's nightmare should really be her losing the ability to speak, either with sealing her mouth or cutting out her tongue.
She's got more, pressing issues on her mind right now. Yeah.
Barry's nightmare should be disappointing Iris. Yeah, he says, oh, wait, that happens all the time. Yeah, that's just waking world stuff. Barry's real nightmare should be his star pupil, Wally, turning evil and killing a bunch of people. Oh, wait, that's happened. Never mind. Both Tim and Jason's nightmare was too obvious.
Barry's nightmare should be losing his job, because when was the last time you saw that guy go to work?
Seriously, I think his nightmare is actually having to admit to Iris he lost it 3 years ago.
I just keep waking up and leaving so she doesn't know.
Yeah, it's like the idea that he wishes he could have the dream where he's in his underwear at work, but he can't because he doesn't have a job. Obvious that the creators focus too much on these characters either being too late to save the day or being beaten up by hordes. But that's going to be a hero's nightmare. But it's still, we don't need the same old shit. But hordes of their usual friends or evil doppelgangers of themselves. When does this event end? It ends at the end of August. So we have quite some time. I mean, I'm just asking you, just not even as a joke, but kind of like, doesn't it feel like we've been doing night terrors for longer than 2 weeks? It feels like we're done the first month.
I'm telling you, I feel like we're half over somehow.
And when I thought to myself, okay, I want to talk about, and I said it at the beginning, hey, is anybody trying to figure out that? And I thought to myself, maybe I won't bring it up yet because,
so early.
We still have, but in my mind, when I first thought, I'm like, we're halfway done.
We have dealt with so much shit though, but it's only been 2 weeks. Well, I'm saying we've dealt with so much shit, but we haven't gleaned anything from it.
Nothing. Do you like gleaning a cube? Do you like that skateboard movie?
No, I do not.
When does this event end? Like we said, it ends at the end of August. Keep up the good work, and I'll see you in 7. We actually end, I think, the event on episode like 499 or 500. We're right near that big milestone when everything
500 is the beginning of September.
Yeah. So, and I know we have a Patreon only ending of I guess I did count it out because there is a extra week, Patreon only week in August too.
Yeah.
Yes. But that's going to be like the Night Terrors shit just ended #1. I think that's what they called it. Keep up the good work, and I'll see you in 7. J-Man from Half Moon Bay. And that's it
Thank
for
you, J-Man.
the mail. Thanks, J-Man. Thanks, Andrew and Belfast. And again, if you want to mail in any sort of thoughts, dreams, nightmares, Eric, maybe you want to have the nightmares?
The prime time
All you have to do to get the prime time, bitch, is to email us at weirdscienceDCcomics@gmail.com. I said it great at the beginning, and then I forgot. All right, but that's that, everybody. That's the mail. We're going to go. We have 3 more books to finish the podcast, and boy, they're spooky. So we'll be right back.
So spooky.
Short and sweet, just like me, Eric. Backwards word magic. You ended up telling me that I get to do the Zatanna credits because I love that backwards word magic.
Yeah, you speak
so
for Zatanna fans everywhere.
That I will speak for them in a minute when we get into this, but here we are with the second and last section of books. We have Zatanna, Shazam, and The Flash. I guess J-Man really loved the Zatanna book. It is a little bit different because it is taking place in the waking world. That doesn't matter.
World.
Does it really matter, Eric? Because, I mean, the idea, shit goes crazy
once I figure out the rules,
anyway.
Then maybe it will matter.
Well, maybe you'll finally figure out those rules. But we'll get right into this. And as you said, I'm the one to do the credits. So here we go, Eric. I am going to channel my magical self to give you these credits. Exactly.
The magical self scares the shit out of me.
In this, you end up having a beginning, and those were the credits, Eric, if you want to play that backwards. But here we go, because we do start with Red Tornado. He's looking in on all of the robots doing their saving stuff and everything there at the Terrifics Tower as he's going through this, and all of a sudden, oh no, what are we going to do? What's this? And he gets all upset. And then we end up going off to Zatanna, as we saw in the First Blood, where she did end up trying to save both Wonder Woman and Detective Chimp from falling asleep, but what we know is she made them shit their pants, is what we talked about the last time.
You're burying the lead right now, Jim, because we're getting to the Zatanna book, but with our cold open with Red Tornado trying to coordinate everything with the robots that are still awake. Who do you think is this person that attacks Red Tornado?
It doesn't matter.
I have no idea. I mean, I really don't. I don't know who it is. Who do you think it is?
I don't know either, because I was thinking about it too, like the idea he's going, there's all this interference over the comm links and stuff like that, until all of a sudden there's interference. It's worse than that. It's like, what are you? No!
Yeah, and
yeah,
I don't know.
It could be something big. And the thing is,
are we going to have it that android's dreaming of it? What happened if it's an electric sheep? If that's what it actually is. So like, okay, he did it there.
I started thinking to myself, though, at the one point where, like, I thought it was the Sleepless Queen, you know, the goon squad of insomnia for some reason that we have here. But they seem to be doing Wonder Woman stuff and Zatanna stuff and Detective Chimp stuff over at the Hall of Justice and not anywhere near the Terrifics Tower.
Yeah, it's actually Mr. Terrific coming and telling him to get the hell out. You're fired. Get out of here. But I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's even the mystery. I guess we're going to play with that as we go forward, but who knows? But again, the big play here with Zatanna, not actually using a lot of backwards word magic in this issue, but enough to annoy me anyway, because I hate it all. But you do have that play, and J-Man said that it's nice to see somebody trying to save some people who fell asleep. That's fine, but that's just the way this was set up. She was able to not go asleep because of her magic. Maybe that'll tie in a little more as we go on. But we really start getting crazy from the beginning when we have the Sleepless Queen. No idea.
Sleepless Queen.
Like, what happened? Like, this was never set up. We had the Sleepless Knights. Okay. I thought we were just playing the game with the Knights with a K. I didn't actually think there were going to be knights in rusty armor going around with a queen. And
when we first started things out in First Blood, it seemed like, all Insomnia had were the spiders from Mars, and then all of a sudden, like, all the Doctors of Arkham became nightmare creatures. But over here at the Hall of Justice, we got a hooded horse skull man, and we got freaking the Sleepless Queen. We got a whole court of freaking nightmare assholes over here.
Yeah, and again, though, when the backwards magic ends up coming into play, I don't mind the desperation play that you end up calling out to whatever. Bring me a champion. You do get Robot Man. That's cool, and I do like that there's
magic
this
doesn't work.
Combo. Yeah, really. Again, though, this issue, and I hate to say it, but it really puts Zatanna in a way of looking like a bitch throughout most of it.
Through most of it. And it was really upsetting me reading this whole thing because she was so upset that Robot Man was here because the Doom Patrol are just a joke and bullshit in everybody's eyes. And she keeps saying it to Cliff to his face.
And I love these, like, well, when I was in the seance that killed my father, I ended up having this. And I'm like, Mento being there. That's like me, like, all of a sudden, I get signed by the Yankees. I'm like, you know what? My dad never did like Lou Gehrig. So I don't like you, Derek Jeter. Like, it doesn't make sense. But she ends up it really made her look like a bitch. It really didn't. It was upsetting me as well. And then that's when I thought, oh, shit, she has the Nightmare Stone in her. That was the only time that I actually thought, because she's acting weird. She's acting aggressive and nasty. I think that
most people act weird around the Doom Patrol.
Well, I don't know. She even seemed like she called for this. This is her spell.
She asked for a champion. She got Robot Man. I agree.
He is a champion. He's a pretty good guy. And most of these people seem like they should know a little about each of them, but the play is to make them the odd couple, which is an odd play anyway. But you do end up where they go down to the secret room. They're going to this magic panic room to take Detective Shimp and Wonder Woman. Again, I like some of the concepts here, and I really did like the art. But when they go in there and then you're getting chased by the Nightmare Queen and the Night.
It's so funny, too, because like I said, you have a whole court of like queens and knights and mages or wizards, whatever the hell these things are, these nightmare creatures that seem to be the lieutenants of Insomnia for whatever reason. All right, we're in the basement of the Hall of Justice. We have to pull this book here. The bookcase opens to a secret like panic room, and we're going to bring the bodies down here. But once we're inside the secret panic room that's in the basement of the Hall of Justice, we go down to a sub-basement where there's a gigantic labyrinth. I'm just sitting there, goddamn magic. Just goddamn magic. So it is, because now we're just back to a labyrinth where, look, if you're not like pure of heart, the hero and stuff like that, the labyrinth's going to screw you all up. We know where we need to go. So just keep the bodies coming, and we're going to fight these things off. They make their way in. But the thing is, all that like the Sleepless Queen keeps saying is like, your magic ain't shit compared to ours. And I'm just sitting there wondering, what is your magic? Because all I found out from the freaking from Night Terrors #1 is that Insomnia was just some dude got rained on with some Lazarus rain and then was walking around tiptoeing through the tulips of people's nightmares. Oh, he's got the Sleepless Queen with magic.
It is funny, and you even said it at the beginning of the podcast, the idea where, dude, you're already pretty powerful here. I mean, really,
you're Nightmare Stone.
It is one of the things, the hubris and the greed will bring him down, Eric. I mean, this guy is a heavy hitter already, but here's the play, and if you didn't understand my backwards word magic for the credits, this is Dennis Culver writing it, who does the Doom Patrol, which we ended up doing this week as well, earlier in the week. Now, in that, you're going to play these nightmares. Now, in my mind, like we were saying when we talked about his Doom Patrol, Unstoppable Doom Patrol, he seems to go between this idea of not really setting up characters, but them wanting to get these big moments from the past, but not really getting a good context with them. In this, he does it again where there's Cliff. Oh, no. What's happening, Josh? What do you mean? What are these things? He's like, you killed us, Cliff. And I think there's two people who know what's going on there. I know that it's
with Josh and Dorothy?
Yeah, with Josh and Dorothy. I mean, you're telling me that you have the
waking. I'm saying we're not in the nightmare world, so like you can't have the normal night. But even though we're in a freaking magical labyrinth, which is out of the ordinary, where nightmare constructs are made up of the zombified Josh and Dorothy from the Doom Patrol book. Like, what's the difference between waking world and sleep at this point?
I don't know, and it's why did you? How can you let us
die, Cliff?
Why do we die? And again, half these characters have died in the past and then come back and all that. It's one of the things that Robot Man was actually bitching and moaning to himself about this week. But the idea of this is, I don't think that's going to hit with a lot of people. And I think that Dennis Culver has a weird idea of what he needs to set up, what he doesn't need to set up, what he thinks is a big hit here. And it just kind of goes. And even like that, you're saying, does not look at all like what the only nightmare construct that we really saw in the waking world, which was John Dee in the Justice League Hall. That kind of had a purplish kind of deal. It looked like a construct. This just looks like normal people that have been risen from the dead, and it gets the power and all the rules, I think.
It's so funny, too, because you have all these zombies attacking Cliff, blaming him for killing them or like allowing them to die, and all these Doom Patrol characters. When it comes to Zatanna facing her fear within these nightmare constructs, it just goes back to the base of Daddy.
Yeah, and it's funny too because she actually kind of does what we thought we wanted Jason Todd, like, fuck this, I've seen you before, toss them aside. And but they're like zombified. I don't know.
It's such a weird idea with everything that we have going on, because with all the nightmare constructs within the waking world and the dream world, one of the biggest feelings that I get from this book, like with besides for its basic premise though, like, oh, this guy got to get the Nightmare Stone. That's his whole gist. But when I see all of this, it just feels like a lot of the stuff that we had in the Blackest Night, where all these characters that we know are dead came back with Black Lantern rings that are attacking their loved ones. That's what I'm getting here, but to a way lesser degree.
Well, the funniest thing is you say that, and I had mentioned to you that Gabe, in his review for the actual Night Terrors #1, he didn't quite get the idea of that Lazarus resin there, and he actually thought that they were going back to dead men resurrecting people from the dead, like a Blackest Night. But in this, it really feels like it even more. I mean, it really does feel like we're just playing that game again. Again, though, the idea, you are getting something
Somehow
going on.
That was scarier, though.
Yeah, well, because it was written well. You end up having this and the idea of, trying to protect Wonder Woman and detect it. At least it gives something going on there.
Some stakes?
Who ordered the steak, Eric? By the end of this section, I'm telling you, this section's going to go quick because I think these books are pretty quick, especially this one where really they are just trying to get to the deal, save Wonder Woman and Detective Chimp, put them away, and then go back and see what they can do.
We have a mission. Get these characters to the panic room and try to avoid all the nightmare contracts. But it just comes down to this where Cliff's like, we both clearly got a bunch of unresolved issues, but I don't think we're equipped to deal with them right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the idea where you do skew Zatanna in that bitchy realm just so that at the end they can high five. And oh my God, they came together in this.
It's like, all right, I don't like you, Robot Man. I'm going to call you a piece of shit throughout this. But you have a good idea when you said, we got a bunch of unresolved issues. Why don't we swap partners right now? Where just, Robot Man beats the shit out of Giovanni Zatanna. And then Zatanna takes out all the dead Doom Patrol members and Brotherhood of Evil members.
Again, it's funny that they can allow the other person to beat the shit out of the things that really aren't real anyway, but they couldn't do it because of their issue. I'm like, no, just do it. And they end up high-fiving. They do end up saving Wonder Woman and Detective Chimp, or at least putting them in this room so they won't be, destroyed. The other play of this is, it really is bullshit,
but the Sleepless Queen is there right there anyway, so what is the whole point of getting to the panic room?
And even in that, there is that play where Cliff shows up, he starts getting shit-talked by Zatanna and then says, this is fine and dandy. You see Wonder Woman, you're probably like, yeah, this is big time. I mean, Detective Chimp, whatever.
Hey, there's a monkey on the ground.
But he mentions, my team is back, and there's nobody protecting them. Like, they're all just knocked out. Like, I got to get back to that. But then they kind of, well, I'll help you now. And they go and do this. So I don't even know. Well, I guess they'll probably try to get, but at the end.
I just imagine, though, the idea, Cliff does have his apprehensions initially because, yes, we're trying to protect Wonder Woman and some monkey that he's never seen before. The Doom Patrol, nobody's protecting them. But then you think about, oh, wait, nobody gives a shit about the Doom Patrol. They'll be fine. Let's protect Wonder Woman.
It's funny. That's all I got. And it's funny because Dennis Culver doing the Doom Patrol book, like, he cares, but I don't think that many. It's still a team up. Like, in these things we've talked about it at different points, it's cool when you get these unlikely pairs.
Oh, yeah.
So it is cool.
Like this, great.
You would never get this. So that's cool. It's just that nothing really happens in the issue
until the end.
Just get to the end again. And that's, we said about the pacing of a 2-issue thing. That's the worst because remember, at some point we're going to have that little, okay, we're out of the dream, the ramifications, maybe fight the way. So that's a part of the next. So you really never get anything for the actual meat of the story that you're setting up in the first issue anyway. So by the end of this, though, you have this Nightmare Queen, and then she's just
Sleepless
like,
Queen.
And it's funny, runs through Cliff, and then he's like, ha ha, I'm a robot, you can't hurt me. Oh, I'm not trying to hurt you, I'm trying to knight you. Oh, here he is, the Rustbringer. I'm like, oh,
it's so
this
funny
is like
too,
the worst of the Dark Multiverse coming back here.
I swear, no, I agree, that's pretty fucking bad. But when Robot Man's like, ha ha, I got a robot body and a human brain, what do you expect to do? I'm like, don't tell her where you're vulnerable, dummy.
I know.
But it doesn't matter either because I'm not murdering you, I'm knighting you. And then he becomes this nightmare monstrosity Robot Man called the Rustbringer, part of the Nightmare Knights or the Sleepless Knights. What the hell is she called that? The Sleepless Knights. The Order of the Sleepless Knights. I'm like, with a K, obviously. I'm like,
with an F.
What's happening? What's happening in the story? Where did these characters come from? The Rustbringer.
And this is in the waking
magic
world.
Outside of the nightmares.
And again, I can only think that this is the play of the... I don't know. I guess the idea of Fred Tornado and the idea because that... I don't get it.
Comic books was...
He's the Rustbringer now.
So now, Jim... He has been knighted, the Rustbringer, in the Order of the Sleepless Knights, and because he has been given this power to become this nightmare construct monstrosity, he now has the power to go hunt down Zatanna and turn her into a Sleepless Knight as well.
Really? Can you? Because it looks like she's just changing mechanical shit into the road. The idea of this, too, is as they're going...
And now his brain's exposed because the freaking top of his head turned into a crown.
Some of the classic, like, Dennis Culver stuff at one point, he tells this joke kind of, it's like, hey, this is great. We're a great team up. We'll call ourselves Hex and Violence. I'm like,
I actually like that name. It's pretty cool.
Hex and Violence?
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't even rhyme or even go well.
It's sex and violence.
Terrible. It's terrible. It's awful. And even
great.
then, it's terrible. It's fucking terrible. And even then, he can't even say it because he gets run through.
Hex and Violence, I thought was really clever.
I thought that was
this.
fucking so stupid that it made me now want to punch you in your fucking face.
It's just because you didn't
now.
get it until now.
No, I'm telling you, I'm like, it doesn't make sense to the characters
play on sex
or what
and violence.
happened. But why do that with Robot Man and Zatanna? It doesn't make sense in the story. Make it funny that it actually connects to it. It doesn't.
She's
it's just
magic
a
and he punches
thing.
things.
Yeah, but the play of the sex and violence is not even anything that you would think of as you're going through this. It's just stupid. It's terrible. But at the end, he's also Rustbringer. So now he's Sex and Rust. I don't know.
Perfect,
Rust
Jim.
and
Way
Bust.
better.
And then you get next. You bore. What you get? Fuck this shit. J-Man might get upset, but this issue sucked. There was nothing to it.
Well, the
you
thing
didn't
is,
do shit.
If I understood the rules, there might be actually something to this because all of a sudden we have a court of the sleepless nights.
And fucking kill you.
Look, I'm sorry that you're a dummy. If you understood at the time,
actually
you'd
have a
like
sense
to
of humor. I would like to think. I'm like, it's ridiculous.
Pretty good.
If we had something that was like, some
Rust
rock
and
star
Bust.
or something, something like would go with the sex and
Rock
violence.
star, obviously.
But this doesn't really go with sex and violence to me. I don't know.
Sex and violence.
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
It's a play on the phrase sex and violence.
Yeah, but that phrase doesn't fit the story or the team. That's what I'm saying.
But the Hex and Violence does.
No, I'm saying it doesn't. That doesn't go with the team. It's just making up a play on words that doesn't go into it. No, you didn't need to make up shit.
No, but it's fun.
Fuck you and this book. Both of you. You and Dennis Culver, go fuck yourselves right now. You're my fucking nightmare. Well, what were you saying?
Thing is, I think the art in this was great. I think that the team up as Zatanna and Robot Man, it's an unlikely pairing that I actually love seeing because you don't get to see like a lot. Like whenever you have these things brought up like this, it's really cool. And I don't think it was actually done too bad once we got past Zatanna saying like, you are a piece of shit, Robot Man. I don't even want to like team up with you. Once we got past her doing all of that, I think it's like really started working out. It's just all these other things with the Court of the Sleepless Nights. I wish this would have been set up in like the First Blood or maybe Night Terrors are Born. It just feels like it's so out of nowhere right here. I'm like, what are we dealing with? And I'm like, it's like one along the lines of like, I want to like this issue for what it's doing because it's weird and out there and like, it could actually have some ramifications to all of our freaking waking like heroes right now and what they're trying to do to protect people. But it's just so out of nowhere. I don't even know how to feel about it. So ultimately, because of how it looks, and I thought the fun I had at the end, and even the cliffhanger I thought was cool with the Rustbringer, even though I don't get it, but it still looks cool, and I want to see how it's going to play out, and hopefully it has some ramifications. But I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
I'm desperately trying to come up with something better, and I can't, so I should. Nuts and Volts, Eric, does that work? You like that one?
Yeah, because, Electric Zatanna.
Nuts and Volts, she does a little electric powers, right?
Yeah,
backwards Schmagic. Is that good?
Magic.
Magic. I don't know. I thought it was stupid. But then again, maybe it's a vendetta. But I'm giving this fuck you 5. I hated every part of it. It just ends up, it's the one Waking World issue, and you're making up fucking nonsense.
So far.
Yeah, well, I'm saying the one that we got so far that's supposed to, I'm going with the idea of setting up rules here. And it's just a fucking mishmash of nonsense. You got what look like zombies that are rising. You end up getting the Rust deal at the... I don't.
The Court of the Sleepless Nights.
Just the idea of this queen out of nowhere, like nothing was set up with that. So it's just bullshit. I'll just give it a regular 5. I thought the art was pretty damn good, but
it's really good, especially the colors popping off the page when Robot Man shows up with that bright white jacket. He looks amazing.
Yeah, but again, you're in the nightmares because that's the nightmares. Then you're the waking world. Oh man, it's a nightmare.
There's no difference. What are we doing?
And who is like? Where are they getting this idea of getting, like, characters that were, say, Zatanna's dad and Cliff with the... Who's doing that to even know about it when they're just in the waking world? It doesn't make sense.
Not tiptoeing through their minds?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It just is there to be there.
You don't know the powers of the Order of the Sleepless Nights.
Well, I don't know that.
They can read your mind right there in the waking worlds because they're there too.
Well... The reason I don't is because I have my mind always on the Hex and violence.
I would.
I know you would. You're a juggalo. So we know what's going on with you. You know what? Also, I was just thinking out of nowhere. Have you noticed when you go to buy bread, Eric? This goes in with the hex and violence.
I did earlier today.
And does it annoy you where they try to dupe you because some of the bread, it looks like it's like warm in the bread because the actual like the cellophane has like a misty look of it, but it's because
I always buy the same bread, so I never have that.
They do that now, and it's becoming bigger and bigger because they've like done tests, and it actually tricks your mind to think that it's fresher because it looks like it's steaming.
I think it's Stroman bread I buy. It's the king size one.
Hex and violence, Eric. That's what
so
ends
good.
up. What was that? I heard some. Did you hear that sound? There was a weird sound that actually sounded like an old Atari 2600, like when the explosion from like combat.
I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, I wonder if it'll come up there. But let's move on to the next book, Eric. I'm losing it here. Let's go to the next book, which is Night Terrors, The Flash #1, a book that I fell asleep reading. Written by Alex Paknadal, art by Daniel Bayliss, Igor Monti, and Simon Bolin. And yeah, this is a Barry book, and we're going to get a lot of the Flash family and Barry. But again,
I was a little upset for the idea of a Barry Allen being the main Flash of the Night Terrors tie and stuff like that. But once we got into it, I was actually kind of happy about it because we don't get a lot of Barry anymore, even though I am a Wally guy.
Yeah, I was bored shitless through this whole issue. Pretty much hated every page. This is going to be kind of a theme as we end up this podcast. Even going through it now, it's so overly narrated. I thought it was a slog to get through, even though, a book like The Flash should go pretty quick, right? Pretty fast. And you get a basic idea and just end up, spending a lot of time just slogging around with it. The idea that Wally has been hurt, young Wally, and he was hurt because he went against Gorilla Grodd without being ready.
I like a lot of the stuff for the nightmare aspect where Barry Allen's face, because he doesn't know he's in a nightmare. As far as he knows that Wally was hurt when Wally is still Kid Flash, again, going up against Gorilla Grodd, who has the Spear of Destiny. And as Wally is laying there dying in the hospital, he's talking about the reason that he wasn't fast enough to take out Gorilla Grodd is because there was a monster in the lightning. He saw something, this overarching mystery. But as Barry is trying to be all Mr. Forensics about it and detect the shit about break everything down about what went wrong and how he's supposed to do this, on top of doing normal Flash stuff okay, I can't fix this the normal way. I'm going to have to rebuild the cosmic treadmill. Everything that we have, every step of the way, plays out so perfectly in my mind as a dream nightmare because we keep just jumping from one place to the other and things aren't making sense even to Barry at times. But sometimes he just goes with it because it is a dream and how you would actually react to something in a dream.
I think he's smarter than that, first up. But we talked about it. I said the same thing with Hal, where he was opening up the door and going in the next thing. This ended up, though, it just was slugging. At the end, I kind of was upset because by the end, I actually thought it was going to be that he was the horror show that was in, and it was like that perpetual thing going where he tried to save Wally, but because he's being ripped apart by the Speed Force and going back in time, that he was actually going to be that monster that distracted but it's not. He ends up saying, Wally, did you see it in the lightning? And I thought that was a misplay. I thought it would have been a kind of cool deal that he was the one, like a self-fulfilling prophecy as he went. I don't know how you continue from that, but I ended up where, you get the same thing. He goes to take the cosmic treadmill. He's going to go back in time. The things with Hal when he goes to the Watchtower, that was crazy enough, but
that was so crazy. Even when Hal
points, though, this should be him breaking out of it. He's a smart guy. He's a detective.
Well, even the idea, the idea that when you're in a dream, you just go with things most of the time. It is what it is, and you just move along because you have one set of
I don't know what these
mind.
heroes said. The motherfucker was just trapped by Pariah in the same goddamn thing 2 weeks ago. At some point, you got to realize that these things happen to you.
And he went with that as well.
Things don't look well. It just ends up where he's like, I don't know, I got to stop this. And everything to me felt like you were just extending this one little story of Wally not being ready to fight Gorilla Grodd, and everything else to me was just boring filler. I was so bored.
It's such a weird idea because everybody hated that future state Flash where it was in the future where it was like the Flash without his powers and he was doing all this different stuff because it wasn't just like a Barry Allen story. He was doing all of these weird things with the rogues equipment to get things done where Wally is that
remember it was like that amalgam shit. And
it was just so out of the ordinary for everything else that we're getting in future state. It actually really just I grabbed a hold of it because I'm like, this seems fresh and new, even though it's like one of those 2-issue things that doesn't fucking matter, just like these things. But I'm like, that was the one I'm like, okay, this is actually kind of cool and different. And I feel the same way about this because it actually is doing a narrative for something within Barry's dream. It might, turn things around where he wakes, up in the second issue because he realizes things aren't working out. but just the way it plays out for the narrative within Barry's dream, how we just go from jumping from one point to the other, even people just showing up and saying weird things where he doesn't understand, but just goes with it. Like that guy outside of the hospital, he comes back to talk to Iris.
Yeah,
that guy is just sitting there talking about Sarah.
Though.
And it's just so weird. And like, it almost felt like, those Buffy episodes, that one Buffy episode where everybody was having those weird dreams and like just jumping from scene to scene, and people were just coming in like saying weird things for no reason, but you just go on because that's what the dream is.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like, to me, you see Wally, and then he goes up and he's like, okay, I'm going to go. The Grodd, he talks to Grodd for like 3-4 pages, and it's just, they keep just doing the same thing,
Barry beats the ever-loving shit out of him, which is not a Barry thing to do.
But again, that's I think this is the one issue, though, in this where I sat there and thought, well, it's a nightmare. It doesn't matter. I mean, he's beating up Grodd, but this is just in his nightmare. So there's no real ramifications or any sort of thing with it. So there he goes. He does it and then breaks out like, oh, my God, I was upset. And I'm telling you, the whole play at the end, I just was bored.
Well, I'm not going to say like, I'm not going to ravage the shit out of this saying this is the most important book of DC Comics during Night Terrors, but for some reason, because of the connection to the Speed Force and the idea that this entire story is revolved around Barry trying to figure out what this monster Wally saw within the lightning when he was running towards Gorilla Grodd. When Barry goes back in time to the point where Wally was hurt, and he sees why Wally wasn't fast enough because of that thing and the monster in the lightning, and Barry sees it, we can't make out really what it is, but you see this thing within the lightning surrounding Barry. It almost looks like it's tearing him apart as he's running to catch up with it.
Well, he says the whole thing is tearing him apart because it's trying to fight against him going back in time. But
and like you have this, but like that's like a more of a like almost like a Speed Force, like the time itself trying to reject Barry because that's like he shouldn't be using his powers that way.
Nightmare. So I think that in his mind, he's making this up because of the idea that he shouldn't time travel anymore. And he shouldn't.
He totally shouldn't because it'll fucking ruin everything as we've seen through Flashpoint. And if you have the Speed Force, you shouldn't be doing this. Negative Speed Force? Oh, you can get away with that, no problem. Reverse Flash does it all the time. He'll destroy your goddamn life from the get-go. But I want to hope, actually, because this is a very out-of-the-box kind of story compared to everything else we're getting, where it's just like, the greatest hits of all these characters' worst moments. This is an actual story going on here. And I want to think, because of the connection to Speed Force and how things work, that there actually might be something going on outside of Insomnia. There is something wrong with the Speed Force, with what's going on here because of this monster that's supposedly in the lightning. I can't say for sure that's going to be the case.
There's no way.
I just know that this feels like more interesting than other stories because it's actually doing something different.
Well, here's the thing. Number one, we're not going to have a Barry book after this. Number two, Alex Packnadal isn't writing shit. So why would he set up anything for somebody else? And there's no Barry book anyway. So I don't think it means anything. I think it's all in his mind.
There's no Ravager or Deathstroke book right now, but I still think that Ravager could be setting stuff up.
There's a Stormwatch book that we're having. I agree. Raven the Bolt. That's the book, and it's written by the guy writing that.
Oh, I get you.
Having something
I just don't know how
here,
that goes into something else, though, because that's 6 issues, right?
No. I don't even think they've actually announced how long that is yet. It's just an ongoing in that book so far. That's as far as I can tell, but it's not 6 issues out in the solicits yet for that anyway. So we'll have to see. But even then, that can go on. But we don't have a Barry book, and we're going to get back to a actual Flash book coming up in September, and I don't know that this is setting up anything with the Speed Force. I just think that it's just nightmares, and that's the problem. There's a couple things in here that could be pretty cool as well, because out of nowhere, Dr. Fate is even in this book trying to help Wally and Canton. The big thing coming out of this whole event is the introduction of Dr. Hate, a bad version of Dr. Fate that's going to be grabbed by Amanda Waller. So if this was actually being done... Yeah, and I'm telling you, when I hear Dr. Hate, I think of Dr. Hurt, but when somebody pointed out, no, we actually had the character mentioned and the actual, helm, and that's what we're going to get. And I wish that this was actually being done in the waking world so that we could have some things that could mean something. But in this, you're just playing nightmares, I think, and by the end, we'll just end up having nonsense, and he'll see. I'm telling you, you're going to end up with the wackiest thing in that Speed Force. It's like, it's you're the bad guy. But, I'm telling you, it bored me, and that's that. But
I just like to see the little things that are off, and then Barry's realizing things are off, but he still goes with it. Like even going to the Justice League Watchtower in space. We haven't had a Watchtower in a while. And then when Hal's on monitor duty, because the way he's talking about how when he did Final Night when he was paralyzed and he absorbed that Sun Eater. And now he's all like, brought back, but he's all burnt up, almost like he looks like Negative Man without his bandage and stuff like that. So the Justice League keeps him on monitor duty because nobody wants to look at this horrific Green Lantern. I'm like, but they're still buddies. It's still Barry and it's still Hal, and they're still the brave and the bold. So Hal's going to help him out, and it's still going to be fine, even though he looks like a monstrosity here.
He does, and he sends the boxing glove. There you go. I actually thought it was going to be green. Thought it was going to be Green Arrow when he first said boxing glove, but then you end up just a construct. So, all in all, though, what would you give this?
All in all, I had fun with this story, and I thought it was different out of the box from anything else we're going to get Night Terrors right now. And I think the art's great, but again, most likely inconsequential for everything we're getting, but it just seemed like a competent story. So I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm a 3. I'll give it a 4. I fell asleep reading it. I mean, that's the best thing or worst thing I can say. I was reading this in the middle of the afternoon and fell the fuck asleep because I was so bored. I wasn't. I read everything else and I was fine. And then I hit that halfway through. I fell asleep and it just bored me. I thought it was just a basic story that has a little bit of like window dressing that it's a nightmare. So it doesn't matter anyway. So we'll see. But I didn't like it at all. But we'll end with the last issue here. What are we talking about, Eric?
Night Terrors Shazam! Number 1, written by Mark Waid with art by Roger Cruz, Wellington Diaz, Arif Prianto, and Troy Pateri. And it's such a weird idea because we have Mark Waid doing the main Shazam book, so it was good to see his name on here. But having a Mary Marvel book, for some reason, I like Mary being featured, especially now that she has her own set of powers from the goddesses and stuff like that. She is her own character outside of being, Shazam White to a degree. And she also even gets her original name, which is great. It just threw me off the idea. It's Night Terrors Shazam, and we get Mary Marvel. I'm like, all right, I guess we could deal with that. But ultimately, it's Mary Marvel falling asleep because of Night Terror stuff going on. And even that, it's not even because of Night Terror stuff, because Mary Marvel, with the wisdom of Minerva being a part of her powers, it's giving her a little like precognition where she's realizing things are about to happen because of this. So you're even getting a little bit of expanse on how her powers work beyond the, a normal wisdom of Solomon. But where does that put us in our story? Because she is having pre-nightmares before night terrors. And it's not bad because I want to say that Mary Marvel at this point in time is almost a lot like, let's say modern day Shazam, like we're Marvel family, fans, where they don't understand the place for Pedro, Eugene, Darla, or, am I missing anybody? No, I think that's it. They don't understand the place of them right now and where they're going to be for, even Freddy. We have Mary Marvel, we have Captain Marvel back, just called the Captain, but pretty much you have Captain Marvel back. And where does this new 52 version of the Shazam League, where do they fit in? Are they ever going to get powers? And I feel like Mary's almost like a version of us wondering the whole thing, because this entire issue is about the idea that they're not going to be around. They're going to be killed off because they're insignificant, and Mary's not going to be able to save them. And is it and maybe it's me just reading way too much into it, because when you start just murdering all the wayward kids out, who don't have powers anymore, I'm like, is this just trying to tell us that we got to get over this? And Mary has to figure out, maybe they don't belong in the family. It's such a weird idea, what you're throwing out here, because it's
maybe she just feels guilty that she got those powers. And like you said, the idea of they're going to, and you could even go even a little more with the idea of, okay, me being a Shazam and then Billy, we're going to end up getting them killed, even if the idea of them being inconsequential. But even here where she says Shazam and blows up the house, right?
When you have a Freddy who wants to do this no matter what, he's going to go to all these great lengths to get the power back because he doesn't want to be who he is.
That's where I was thinking. And also the idea, kind of the meta thing where, okay, there's our home. It's in the middle of a desert, because with the kids not having powers, it's really a desert of shit. There's nothing to do with them. And so I like that. Then in this, though, when Billy shows up and the Black Adam stuff, and also when he knows, the Minerva's, they're talking about the powers and things like that. And then when Freddy kind of just materialized, I'm like, we talked about the idea of maybe Freddy becoming bad even. And then I really thought, is Freddy going to get to the point where he says, okay, well, you have these goddesses that gave Mary the power. What other sort of, gods could I go to? Or demons or things like that? And I think that Freddy would go
Freddy
that
to
far.
fucking go to Neron and sell his soul for powers.
And that, and I was even going to say it'd be almost like a Mephisto, but Neron is definitely the deal. But then I thought, boy, they really, it sucks that they fuck around with Black Adam so much that we don't even know what the fuck's happening with Black Adam, because I would love Freddy go to him and say, listen, I know, we're not really tight or anything, family, but can I be part, or Black Adam seeing what's going on and saying, well, fuck this, I can get back at them. But he's a hero now, it doesn't work. But at one point it could have been cool, where suddenly you have Darla, Eugene, Pedro, and Freddy are part of the Black Adam family, and just because they want powers, and say, you didn't do anything for us. And I think you're leading somewhere, but I do think a Neuron type of thing, or somehow where Freddy starts to investigate the occult. He's going to look into different
we saw him in the last issue of the Shazam book where he went to the Rock of Eternity to try to find something there magical to freaking juice him up
a little too much, right? He ended up hearing them talk. But at one point, maybe they'll even play that game of, listen, Bill, like even play, and use him, dupe him even. Like, yeah, Billy's nuts because they're mad at Billy. They think that he's used the powers without any sort of thing. And maybe they're like, we'll pick you as a
kid. Mary's jealous as well. I mean, they're jealous of Mary as well because the gods chose her over everybody else as well. Like, they're constantly being left behind.
And they keep thinking that both of them aren't willing to share the idea of, and it's cute with like Darla, like, I think you have a headache because you're not sharing the power. Like she keeps trying to say it, and it's kind of cute. But overall, Freddy's the one that really shows, like, he's getting desperate. And he said it, and it was so great when he said, like, everybody else, they're just regular kids now. But look at me.
I don't think Pedro cares. Even Eugene. I don't think Eugene really cares either.
All you have to do to Pedro is have that dinosaur show him a little lifting technique, and he's in. And I think that Darla would be the one that might get her smarts involved with her and Freddy doing some things, because Freddy definitely, really wants to have the power back so he can be
he
what
wants to be Captain Marvel Jr. once again. CM3.
Yeah. And again, though, I while I was reading this, not that it had a lot to do with it, but that play of, them being inconsequential, them trying, it really did make me wonder, like, are we going to go forward with them? Trying so hard and maybe, like you said, a Neuron or teaming up with some things. But in this, you do have, like, Billy's there as Black Adam. And it really does play out, again, like a dream at points here. Like, they get in the cab, and it's a stretch cab with, like, a pool in it.
Well, that's the thing is, too, because, like, I like this book enough. Some of the progression felt weird to me. Like, even when Billy showed up, you have the house in the middle of the desert. You need water because the house is on fire, but you're in the middle of the desert, so there's no water to put out the fire. And you have all these, like, nightmare scenarios just because that's what it is. But when Billy shows up and he looks like Black Adam, I thought it was Black Adam at first, because why wouldn't I? Because he looks exactly like Black Adam. But he's like, oh, Billy, and stuff like that. Even at one point, though, when, it seems like she woke up because she keeps saying Shazam in her dreams, right? So she keeps striking lightning down and stuff like that while she's sleeping, because she's talking in her sleep. But you see it go from a progression of like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way to Friday. But when she wakes up on Friday, she's still in the dream. So was all that other stuff where she was doing this, is this still all part of the same dream? Or did we actually go through days? Because
I think we went through days, but she's so exhausted. This is still
pre-night terrors. And even Insomnia's like, look, it seems like you got some clairvoyance with the wisdom of Minerva over there. I'm like, so what are we doing? Like, what happens to Mary when Night Terrors actually starts? Why can't we have two Shazam books going on at this point, where this is the pre-Night Terrors, and then we actually get Billy for an actual Night Terrors, like a dream state or something?
Yeah, it's weird because when she's doing that, I think she is in the Night Terrors, but she's able to wake up by using the power and then goes back in and out and in and out. Because
but this is before Night Terrors because of the clairvoyance.
At one point, though, the house is in the middle of a desert blowing up. Yeah. That's not real. That's Night Terrors. And then later when she gets Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But at that point, she's in Night Terrors.
No, I'm saying, though, she's having nightmares and stuff like that. Even Insomnia is there driving the cab, but he even talks about the idea where I think you have some clairvoyance, like this hasn't happened yet, but you're like, she's precogging the idea that this is about to happen because of her power set.
Yeah, I got the idea that all that was she could have been drifting into it as well. And then I don't know, because do we ever even see, we never really get the idea of when that mist never comes. I actually thought that that was even Night Terrors before that she was just able, once you say Shazam, that's like a thing that she was able to figure out kind of subconsciously, that if you say Shazam in that, the power gets you out of the Night Terrors, and that'll be how she'll win the day later. I don't know. But we'll have to see, because even at the point, like, again, I don't know, because it just felt like the whole time it was in that. But
and the thing is, and maybe it is in the Nightmare Wave, because even when Insomnia, before he shows his, like, Freddy Krueger, like, he gives up his disguise and shows who he is when he's the cabbie driving them. It's like, where does he go here? I know everything about the Nightmare Wave, pulling all who dream into the realm, the Nightmare Stone, the most lethal, most precious of the Dream Stones, the Dark Nightmare, the Terror Titans, the Man of Screams. And if you remember how we had that, like, Superman, like, next to the Man of Screams, so I'm guessing that's going to jump in some. It's like, what are you talking about? I can only parrot what you already know. This is your dream, but you understand more than you realize. Maybe your wisdom comes with a small measure of clairvoyance. Who are you? It's like, oh, who do you think? So when they talk about the idea of a small measure of clairvoyance, I wanted to go with the idea that this hasn't happened yet, but it's on the precursor of night terrors.
Yeah, I thought that it was just that she was able to get out of those nightmares, even though then again, like she wakes up, like again, Monday, Shazam,
exactly.
Boom. And then
like I find this progression a little bit confusing though.
Like again, is she waking up then? And because on Friday, and even before those other days, shit's going wrong. And I think that it's the idea that she kind of knew something was wrong and is waking up out of it. I don't know. Because when she gets
and then the
there is
nightmare
no
wave
regular
hits.
world. There's no regular world. Like at a point, when she wakes up in a nightmare still that I don't know. It got a little confusing. I think she's been in the night terrors the whole time. She just knows that something's wrong. I mean, at one point they're serving up, bugs and shit. It looks like, they're Indiana Jones shit. And then there's Bug Guy. And
Barry's deep into his investigation on who hurt Wally, how Gorilla Grodd hurt Wally and what's in the freaking lightning, what monster. But a lot of our heroes, it seems like they're figuring out shit's not real within their dreams. So they're trying to fight back. And it seems like this should be something more because of her power set. Like even Insomnia saying how her power set works and explaining a few things. It just felt like it should mean more than like how anybody else is dealing with the nightmares.
Yeah, and again, we did start out and set this up of, Mary running herself ragged and trying to end up, and she does pass out there. But it's weird. I wish that we did have the mist or whatever it was, that nightmare purple
wave.
Mist. We never really get the wave in this, so you could go with the idea. I just thought that when she says, I don't know, like she realizes something's not right and she might be able to figure it out. But at the end, either way, he's saying, hey, you're pretty smart. And hey, look at me. I'm the Insomnia.
I'm telling you, though, when we start this whole thing out with Mary Marvel punching out Zavam, I'm like, this motherfucker should have been in the Revenge of the Gods story with Billy Batson and Wonder Woman, because this was a being that was created by the gods to take on Superman because the gods were thinking that he was getting too high and mighty. I'm like, this character should have been brought back for it. All we have here is like Mary Marvel give an uppercut. Okay, he's done. Let's move on.
Yeah. And now I'm like, when she falls asleep and, then she wakes up and she's sleeping on the deal, you could say, like you said, is this just a normal? It's a weird thing to play, like the idea of, oh, this is just a normal nightmare, not the night terrors. Who knows?
And again, it's weird because eventually it leads to her, going back and within the nightmare and being attacked by Billy Batson, who's like the all Black Adam up here, where every time he says the word, instead of giving his powers to the rest of his family, it strikes them with lightning and destroys them. And eventually Mary's trying to stop this by saying the word, but every time she tries to say it, all this goo keeps coming out of her mouth where she can't finish the word Shazam. And the issue ends in a really, really sinister kind of way where Black Adam, Billy Batson, leans up to her and he's about to say Shazam right at her because everybody else around her is dead. And this just means like the idea she's going to be zapped next and killed. I'm like, but if you die in the dreams, you die in real lives.
I even like you get that classic and we laugh. And again, this is a little more than just the big hits, the classic hits, but I do love the idea where, come on, hit me, Mary, hit me. And we have that play. We always laugh about it when he ends up turning back to Billy so that you don't hit a little kid. And he's like, you lucky you stopped. You would have killed me. And it's kind of a fun little play. But again, that's where again, I thought that, the whole idea of night terrors, nightmares, or regular nightmares, either or, she does have some issues here. And, is afraid that the rest of the family is in big trouble without their powers. But she can't really do anything about it.
And even the idea, because she feels like she has to protect them because she has had to. She had to put her life on hold, and then she had to put her life on hold again because of the powers. So she's really in a tough spot. So you have some decent stuff to play with. But I don't know if it's really utilized as well as it could be with just an evil Billy Batson dressed up like Black Adam here killing off the family. And then I have to think, well, is this more of a existential look about how the family is viewed through the fans and us not realizing where their place is and Mary not realizing that as well? Like, are they going that deep or am I just an asshole who's trying to find more in this nightmare story?
Yeah, and again, when you end up having we like Mary, as you said, but when you end up having a deal where in it a nightmare is Billy Batson as Black Cat, you want to look a little more into it. You want to say, okay, and that's cool. But again, it's the thing that I keep having problems with these tie-ins. Like at the end, you're either left wondering, is this going to matter? Or you're just like, this won't matter. I hope that this would be something, but who knows? I mean, at least it'll be Mary kind of hey, I got to do something. I don't know. I just imagine, again, the thing that interests me is not even in this book, is the idea of Freddy desperately wanting those powers and what he'll go about to do it, which might have been a cool
And I'm sure we'll
play
get back to
in
that
this.
too when we get back to the actual Shazam book.
We'll be right to that. Well, because, Freddy got captured, so we'll see how that
once
plays
Billy
out.
takes out the guys trying to take their powers back, we'll get right back to Freddy wanting them powers.
Yeah, I actually think that it'll be right involved with it. I think that that's going to be in play with they might dupe them or something, like I said. But
maybe.
We'll have to see. But what would you give this?
Ultimately, I had fun with this issue. I think the progression, though, and the way the story was told, I found a lot of it confusing and how it's working out. I'm telling you, I had my own preconceived notions about what it means.
And then once you said that, it blew my mind, and I have to kind of go through that. I mean, as we were talking, I'm like, maybe it is that. So that's weird that we both had different ideas.
We're just at the point of like a lot of people online talking about comic books, especially DC Comics. Like everybody has their own ideas about what's going on here, and that's a problem. But I still had fun with some of the concepts and stuff, and even the art looks so good throughout this. And like I was at first a little upset that we get Mary Marvel as our main character instead of Billy Batson because I love Billy Batson, but this works for the issue, and I can't wait to see where it goes next because it's fun. But because of the way the story was told, I still have to give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm a 5.5. I sit there and read it. I'm like, I don't really care when I'm done because it just doesn't seem like it's going to matter. And really, I was just more thinking about Freddy. It's not even part of really the issue. So overall, this week was a disappointment for me.
Thinking about Freddy?
Yeah, I'm telling you, though. Yeah,
Krueger.
Krueger. Oh my, Eric, that is true. Yeah, the whole play of this, though, is still, when I read this issue, I just want to read where we left off Night Terrors. And in that, most of the time, we've been giving them 7 to 8s or whatever. I can't give this a 7. I just don't think it's that good. I just don't think it made no sense. Like me and you both thought completely different things of what was going on. So obviously that wasn't really well done. And by the end, I just want to get back to the regular books. I don't even know when we were in the fucking nightmare realm in this. I thought she was the whole time. You didn't think so. So that's a bad thing.
No, and not even the idea of that. Like, I wasn't positive if we were going through the days and she thought she woke up on Friday, but she was still in the nightmare. My biggest thing is this before Night Terrors and she's having like premonitions of what's coming?
Yeah. Now that I think about it, I even have a different idea, is that in those nights, that's just her in the Night Terrors yelling Shazam, and it's affecting the regular world because of the lightning in that, because she's muttering that in the real world as well. And then we just get to Friday where she's still in the nightmares. I think she's been in the nightmare the whole time, and there you go. Because if you did mutter and talk in your sleep and yell Shazam, you would go back and forth in the real world. I guess you would probably end up changing if you say it. So I think that's all it is. That all the things that we keep happening, it might even add up that each time that she said Shazam, that was one of those days in the nightmare realm. I don't know. But at the end, she's definitely in there, and we'll see what comes from it. But yeah, this was a really crappy week, and it really is showing me that I don't like much of this Night Terrors, and I just want to get to September and get back to the regular scheduled program and what I was really enjoying. But I'm hoping that when we get back, it doesn't take a while to get the engine running again. This whole thing said, nobody to me is guessing where this Nightmare Stone is. Nobody has any, because nobody cares or knows what's going on. No, I could talk to 10 people, they'll all have a different idea, and that's not the way to do an event. And usually we say that Joshua Williamson is good at the beginning and loses track of that. We're at the beginning and it's already losing track. So I don't know. It's got me worried for the rest of this. We'll see. Every week is a new week, but I thought this was down. What would you give your book of the week?
My book of the week is World's Finest Teen Titans #1.
That is mine as well. So yeah, there you go. A non-Night Terrors book. Pretty cool. I mean, you were talking, you got more positive as we talked about it, as that was on the Patreon Spotlight. So if you want to listen to that, go over to patreon.com/weirdscience, where we had some fun talking about that. Here's what we're going to talk about next week. We got a bunch of books.
Sure do.
Batman Superman World's Finest #17.
Oh, that robot uprising.
Couldn't even remember what was going on until you said that. Oh, the robot uprising. Luckily, the robots are there because they can end up, but it's in the past, Eric. If it was they could have saved everybody. But you also have Hawk Girl #1. The start of a new series. Somebody said that they looked at just the preview and they already hated it. It was very wordy, or so. I don't know. I know that we can't get a hold of the creator. Block this thing. Hawk Girl #1. I never saw that name in my life, but we're blocked. Night Terrors Catwoman #1. Teenie Howard.
Oh, goody.
Sure, that'll be fun. Night Terror's Nightwing.
You think she's going to have a nightmare about where she works at a suicide hotline?
I think that she's going to be upset because Duchess ran out of fucking ramen. So it's going to be nonsense. I hope it's fun at least. I hope we can have fun poking fun at it. Probably eat a lot of things.
I'm sitting here thinking, like, maybe nobody knows what I'm talking about. That seems like a really crash joke about a suicide hotline. The thing is, back in the New 52, there was a story called Gothtopia where the whole world was turned into a dream world version. That's where she worked.
You mean it wasn't a nightmare realm? It was a dream realm. Everything was great. Everything they couldn't take it.
It was a Gothtopia. But the thing is that we had on that where that was a dream, like, a dream world job that she had. When the dream ended, she was still working there. And it never made sense to you.
She was still working. Ann Nocenti was writing that, and she didn't realize that afterwards things reset and that didn't happen. She was still working at that place. It made no sense. In that, too, I remember there was parts of that bit, too, about either, I think it was football or baseball, that was it's like, you throw the touchdown to me and it's balls on.
No. Pass me the ball and it's down.
Yeah, pass me the ball and it's down. What? We laughed so much at that. That was so much fun. See, that's the sort of thing. Like when I'm reading that Flash and even the stuff at the end when I was yelling at you about hex and violence.
So good.
It's not as fun as the stuff like throw me the ball and it's down, or even the Steve Orlando JSA, like that sort of thing, or
JLA.
I'm telling you, that's the sort of thing. Matthew Rapier actually goes back to those reviews of us doing the Steve Orlando JLA when he's having a bad day. He goes back because it was so ridiculous. We had Pistol Shrimp and that one going on. That Catwoman. Oh my God. For some reason, I didn't even think of that for years now about that. Throw me the ball and it's down.
I've never forgotten it.
And remember, I was like yelling at that point, like, just talk to anybody. They would have been able to give you one line of that. But I did remember the Gothtopia, if people don't know about it, was a John Layman thing that was kind of like just a Batman crossover.
I loved his run on Detective Comics.
And when he did it, the concept was, hey, look, Gotham is a utopia. It's Gothtopia. But without being able to be angry, without being able to express, people started going insane. And then people did start committing suicide because they ended up, you have to have, that emotion and be able to express and things like that. It was a really cool idea. The whole thing kind of fell apart at points because you had people like Ann Nocenti tying into it, but we still had fun.
At one point in the main book, Killer Croc he wasn't Killer Crocked up and he worked for Arkham as like a guard and stuff like that, but they drew him white with blonde hair.
I'm like, why is
that a dream state? What are you doing, DC Comics?
Yeah, you had people all with you on that one.
Watching the DCU, are you, DC?
We have the article still out there on the site that you were pissed off. Ooh-wee. Oh, it was pretty good. But then later when you got upset about the Aquaman rape, everybody turned on you. Nobody was with you on that one, Eric. Until they were, but you were already done with it. You know what I mean?
I don't even remember the argument anymore. I just know the Siren and him had sex when she was in disguise.
She was in disguise as Mara.
As Mara, yeah. And I don't remember my stance on this at all.
And you said that was bullshit. You said that was rape. You said that you shouldn't be able to do that.
No, I don't know if I was saying that. My thing was, Mara shouldn't have been upset because it wasn't Aquaman's fault, maybe?
Oh, Jesus Christ. No, I remember because the one person was making funny on another podcast and like, it wasn't rape. That guy's insane. Because you said, this is kind of weird.
It is weird.
Maybe, I think though I think that actually, I think that this is what it was. You were upset because legitimately Aquaman was a victim, but then he ended up almost being the bad guy in the story because, Mara was pissed or something. It was weird. It was weird, but I remember
that story sucked.
I think you were on the right side of things.
I would think so.
I'd hope. I'm not positive there, but I hope it was. I just
all of a sudden it became that sex scene in Revenge of the Nerds, and that's not okay, remember?
At that point, I was listening to so many different DC Comics podcasts, and there actually was a lot. There's not that many left. But when I was listening, and all of a sudden, holy shit, they're talking shit on Eric, and I had to let you know. It was fun, because usually people were talking shit on me.
They never stop, apparently.
Just listening to Paulie P. Or what was it? It was their City Boy, Country Boy podcast.
City
Do you
Geek.
Remember that? City Geek, Country Geek. Is that what it was? And
I'm pretty sure.
I'm listening. That was before we really knew them. And I'm listening, and it's like, yeah, that Jim guy on this Weird Science DC Comics, that guy's an asshole. He's losing his mind. mainly because either I was yelling about the height of Gotham buildings or the idea of at the end of a hockey game, you're not going to start a fight when it's a tie. That's what's in my mind. Again, it always is sports, but I remember them yelling and screaming that I was an asshole. And then I got a hold of them, Eric, and I told them something, and then we all became friends. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Where are we? Night Terror's Nightwing, number 1. You looking forward to that? Clunrad.
Now, how is that going to be different than Titans? Because you think Nightwing's going to show up in both of them?
Clunrad's writing it. That's how it's going to be different.
Fuck.
It's going to be fucking nuts. Now,
ready for some new rules?
I will also say that a lot of these things where you do tend to hope that the books where the actual creative teams on that book, like a Mark Waid on the shit, you can look more into those stories then, which I do like the idea, okay, maybe that's setting up this, but Clunrad on Nightwing?
Now, I'm afraid because of the Clunrads and what they did with Deadman and Wonder Woman, Deadman's going to be involved with Nightwing somehow.
I don't know. That might mess things up. And who knows what they think Deadman is at that. He'd become Plastic Man out of nowhere.
I know because they didn't know what Deadman was in the Wonder Woman book.
I know. I'm telling you. It's nonsense. And I swear to God, Joshua Williamson is going from there for Night Terror's
New status quo, Boston brand.
Yeah. Night Terror's punchline number 1.
So weird with all the characters that we could have in this big crossover event tie an event to this whole thing. Punchline is still popular enough to get a freaking seat at the table.
It's written by Danny Lore, so I don't know how popular that is. It might just be a placeholder. I don't know. I don't like Danny Lore that much, but I'll give you the solicit to see if you're into it.
Are we getting a Power Girl Night Terrors?
Yeah, that'll be in the Action Comics. That's you end up having. The funny play is the Action Comics Night Terrors is the main story seems to be Paige, Power Girl.
Mm-hmm.
At least I can play my song again, Eric. But also then Philip Kennedy Johnson, like aside to on the big thing. But you have Danny Lore and Lucas Meyer is the artist. But Alexis K, a.k.a. Punchline, fears nothing. For so she'd have you believe. Her fears will be pried out of her in the nightmare world, where she's being hunted, and she'll be forced to face her deepest, darkest nightmare in a true horror movie fashion. Now, if done well,
you can get some real backstory on what Alexis K is.
In this,
fill in the blanks.
Solid character work that we desperately need with this character. So I hope.
So that's definitely what's going to happen, right, Jim?
I hope. I'm telling you, because you talk about your stupid Ravager. You talk about your bullshit Flash, Eric. This could be the most important book. This is that, and I'll tell you right now, and I Love Punchline.
It's going to go back to Joker War.
I'm giving I Love Punchline a little salute here, right? This is make or break time. If this fails, the character might be done. If you can do something good, because you can do character work in these. Nightmares can be character work, especially with somebody that there isn't a greatest hits.
Yelled about it all night.
Unless all you do is go with the Joker. Like, we need more than that. We need some really good, and you could really set this character up for something coming up, but if you do it bad, done. You can't give a character that many chances that just don't work.
What are you talking about? She's working for the Catwoman in the Gotham War after this.
What's that, Phase 10?
Phase 9 from outer space.
If I'm Mr. DC, and allegedly the guy drinks a lot, but I think that what I would have done, Danny Lore, to take a hike, I would have gotten Teenie Howard's husband. He seemed to be the
Blake
spice. Yeah, get Blake in here. It would have been good. Get that asshole in here. I just think he's an asshole, Eric. I don't know why. I just think, fuck you. I'm telling you. Here's the thing. I'll admit it now. We're past the deal. 40% is that I didn't get it, and I'm a little embarrassed. 60% is that it doesn't jive. I didn't think it was funny. 40% though was like, I'm like, oh, you know what the problem was? And I'll tell you why it didn't work with me. Because like a fucking moron, I actually played almost like backwards magic with it. Because I went through it, got done, and then I thought, what was that? That wasn't a good joke. And every time I went in reverse because I was already past it. It's a weird play that I ended up like violence
and hex.
Violence. That doesn't like I never really put it in a sentence forward.
Hex and violence.
Like I said, Eric, 60% that I was embarrassed that I didn't get it. 40% I'm still mad because I didn't. I think it was just like out of nowhere. It still didn't fit the book.
For how mad you got, I'm like, I know exactly what happened here.
No, maybe it should have been like, I can't think of it. I wish that I was clever enough to come up with, and you would say, holy crap, in my mind, I envision me coming up with something so good.
You're Ralphie, and everybody's putting you on your shoulders and applauding for your freaking phrasing.
And I'm like, lace and face. No, okay. Nets and
hex and violence. So good.
Can't do it. How about bust and rust? Because she's got the bosoms, right? And then he becomes the rust guy.
I don't think we're playing on that.
You don't like that? Bust and rust? That's about my best that I got here. 70%, Eric, I was embarrassed that I didn't get it. 30%, I just was mad at you for laughing at me. I still didn't like the issue. What did I give that issue? Give it like another...
I think you gave it like a 3, maybe?
Okay,
I don't know.
Give it one more point. I was mad at you.
I know what happened.
I was embarrassed. I ain't giving shit like that a 7.
When the score just jumps down after that, I'm like, I know exactly what happened.
It's the game we play, Eric. That's why it's like, it's almost like I have this crazy like panic button. Everything shifts like 2 points down.
I told you comic books is bad for you.
The minute that I end up saying I'm going to slice you, don't ever trust that score.
I don't.
Come back like 3 days later and ask me about it in private and like, did you really hate it that much, or were you mad at Eric? And you know what I'm going to say every time. I'm going to say,
comic books was bad for you.
There's been times like it used to be worse. I think I've gotten a lot better at points. Legitimate, no joke. You had to have realized at points that if you were me and you recorded in the same, I would have leaped over the table at you if I could have, and I would have strangled you. But yeah. And then you know that score, whatever that score is, it's never going to be accurate because I just want to, and I sit there and think, actually, I'll tell you what usually happens. If I'm mad at you like this and I sit there and think he should be giving this a 5 and you give it a 7, that's when I -2 the 5. That's why I'm a 3. That's all it is. That is my math in my head. It's a gut reaction. We say all the time, my gut reaction is anger at you.
I hate you.
That's all it is. It's like, I fucking hate. And then I realized by the end, you can tell also because before I'd kick the computer so we'd be disconnected then let you sit there. Now I kind of laugh at the end just to try to let you know that I know I'm insane.
We call that growth, everybody.
I realize that I'm totally insane. Night Terror Superman #1, Aaron. There you go.
The Man of Scream. Oh, what is it?
The Man of Screams.
Okay, you did say Superman. I thought you said Superman Night Terror is #1, and it really messed me up.
It's Night Terror Superman. Superman #1. And this says he's confronted by the Super Reaper on the haunted nightly planet.
Spooky.
I think I remember doing the solicit and thinking like, what the hell is going on? I mean, he's not even just in the nightmare realm. He's on the nightly planet confronted by the Super Reaper.
Don't fear the Super Reaper.
Ooh, or the Super Reefer. That's what Snoop
you should fear that.
I think, right? Yeah, probably. I'd be done. Night Terror's Wonder Woman #1.
Who's writing that?
That is a dual deal. Josie Campbell and Stephanie Williams.
I look forward to that. Josie Campbell pulls out some good stuff, though.
You think?
I think so.
We're about the only ones that were any bit positive with that Mary Marvel book, which we actually liked a little better than a lot of people. But one of the other things, Juan Ferrera's on that. So maybe we'll be in it, Eric. Maybe this will be the finishing arc. We'll be in the Nightmare Realm. But Stephanie Williams did the stuff with Nubia. So
Josie Campbell's doing something now. I just saw, and I was really impressed that she was doing that. I think it might be that. Oh yeah, it's that new Superman cartoon show. I think she created it.
Oh really? Yeah, people are like hot or cold on that.
It's fun.
I watched the beginning. It looked more skewed to little kids, Eric. I'm an adult.
Yeah,
I mean, seriously,
I'm a little kid.
I'm a grown man. I don't need your shit. I'm a grown man who watches grown men things, Eric, like movies and TV shows.
Oh, yeah, you watch their stuff, do you?
I actually watched the Lost prequel the other day. You ever watch that?
I didn't know Lost had a prequel.
It's called Gilligan's Island, Eric. That's my joke. But yeah, I was watching some Gilligan's Island and giggling and laughing. I felt like a little kid again. Oh, my God. Then I shit my pants. I'm like, yep, I feel just like a little kid again. Eric, I didn't shit my pants. I'm a fucking adult. Stop it. Here we go. The next one is Tales of the Titans #1. This is like the longest run through of books ever.
But like Tales of the Titans #1, what? They should really have like,
no,
a character name on there.
Well, Starfire's on the cover, but this is like the first one. I don't know.
It should be Tales of the Titans, Starfire, #1.
Yeah, but I think it kind of has Javier Rodriguez on art, and you have Shannon Hale and Dean Hale doing the Hail to the Chief or something. I don't know. They're on this, and it's like a setup, but also Starfire. I don't know. Looks like Emmanuel Lupacino on the cover, though, I'd guess. It kind of looks like her face is eerie, I say, Eric. And Superboy, the Man of Tomorrow, #4, the book that I said at the beginning, that I wasn't sure that we would do that or not, but we probably don't. Yeah, we'll see. Gabe's already reviewed it. And then somebody called him out on that on the website. They're like, how'd you get it? But it was on the app this past week. They kind of do that. And Gabe really liked it, but he's sus, and he liked the other issues, and we haven't liked them as much. So
I like some bits of it.
What, the cover?
Some bits.
It's okay. It's just, it has a weird focus and a weird progression. Weird dialogue.
My problem right now is I want to talk about the things I like. I gotta go back and read the last issue. I'm like, where did we leave off? Because I'm pretty sure that we had our main kid who
were like fighting with them, and they're sus.
The Cosmeteers, the main kid who's like a Daxamite clone, he was doing brain control stuff on people.
I remember he was pretty pissed off because you get to be normal and I don't. Yeah. So it's okay. It's like that weird book again. We said it all night with it. It's like, if you enjoy it, but what does it really matter by the end? But it's okay.
Growth for Connor Kent. Get some adventures out there. Maybe some new friends before he comes back to rejoin the Superman family for Action Comics.
Friends with these assholes.
Not right now. Well, right now he does. By the end, maybe not, but hopefully things get turned around for the best.
Maybe they're not. Like the idea where I want the Cosmeteers to be something almost like what's her name in Action Comics with John and the Dan Jurgens deal. But I think that all of them are sus. And
I thought it was kind of cool because it is a clone kind of version, though. Like, yeah, I wish Gleanna would do. I don't want to get into that. But the idea that this is almost like a weird take.
Clone thing, yeah.
No, it's like a weird take on the Legion of Superheroes in a present day with all the different alien races and Superboy being a part of that, even with the rings and stuff. Like, it's a cool take that I want to see explored more.
You could be on the team. You could be Bouncing Boy, huh?
Oh.
You big fat asshole.
Hex and violence.
Violence and hex. I don't get it. Plus, I was thinking of that book, the Jonah the Hex book. It was really throwing me off. Also, what was the amalgam character? That it was pretty cool with the hex in the name, and I can't remember.
I can't remember either because there was a cool name too.
It was a really cool name, and that's also what I thought of. I'm like, that's not as good. Violence Hex. I know. I wanted to be like something with Dr. Fate or something like that, but you look that up.
I will.
I will tell everybody that all those books, a couple of those will be, and maybe 3 this week. It depends on how the whole polling goes, but if you want to be involved in the voting or at least listen to the spotlight that comes out every Thursday night, picked by the badasses of the Get Fresh crew, go over to the Patreon, patreon.com/WeirdScience. Just thinking to myself that this wreck of an ending and all that nonsense, but hey, that's what you get. You never know. You never know when you're going to wake up from that nightmare realm, right, Eric?
Hopefully soon.
No, I don't know. But that's that. I missed my window of opportunity with my intermittent fasting. I missed it again. I even told you the idea that between
I gotta go shove some rice in my face.
I said I'm going to have to shove rice and fish in my mouth. I never did. I even got coffee that I can't drink now because it has creamer in it. Oh, well, looks like another night of getting rid of that.
I can't find that cool hex thing you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. For some reason now, all I can think about, it was called Hex and Violence.
Listen, and now I'm thinking about,
but I can't find anything.
Bullets and Bracers now.
Honestly, that's what came to my mind as well, which is also a cool title.
Yeah, it is. It really is. But those amalgam things were pretty cool. But with all of that, we'll find it eventually. And if you know, you can let us know in the comments wherever you're listening to this. But just as an ending, again, check us out on our Patreon, patreon.com/WeirdScience. Also go over to the YouTubes, Weird Science Comics.
Generation Hex.
Yeah, that seems different. Was that it? I thought there was something else.
Well, that was an amalgam one where it's Generation X in the Old West.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Generation Hex.
Also, go to our website, WeirdScienceDCComics.com. Check out the written reviews. Maybe some a little before the embargo, Eric. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm not telling. Just as an aside, as we were going through, I was also pissed off at the last section of books because it looks like DC not only got rid of us on the review copies, but won't even give us the previews now because I'm acting like an asshole. Right, Eric? Burning the bridges. Those bridges are gone. I don't care. Just imagine me in like a little teeny like car throwing a match over my shoulder. But yeah, I'm just mad now. But more at you. More at you and my embarrassment of me being a dummy. But yeah, so all these will be in the show notes as well, all these links and whatnot. But with that, we're done. Eric, what do we say at the end of the podcast?
Everybody have a great week. Keep it spooky. And we'll see you in 7.
See you in 7.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Night Terror Zatanna #1, written by Dennis Culver, with art by David Baldione, Rain Barreto, and Pat Brousseau.